All right, so just waiting for YouTube to actually go live. All right, so we're going to be getting back into our Survivor Man challenge, which is this save. So the Survivor Man challenge with Farming Simulator, basically what it's a 0 to hero run. You start with $0, a chainsaw, and a dream. Technically, you'll also start with a tile of land because it's necessary to function, unless you're doing like contracts, which are against the rules for me. And generally with a Survivor Man challenge, they will usually have rules saying stuff like you can't take loans, you can't lease stuff, you've got to like just work to make your own money kind of thing happen. But the idea is it's a slow burn style of farm sim. That said, we have been at this challenge for a very long time. So where we were just getting off Project Zomboid and our character that's like super duper established, that was a 0 to hero run. This is kind of the farming simulator equivalent of that, where we're already well established at that point. And so basically every year, once I finish getting a harvest and all that kind of good stuff, I can usually expand our operation. So if we look at what we've got going on here, which is apparently that tomatoes and strawberries are for sale, I started with this tile of land I'm standing on, this chainsaw, and a dream. We also gave ourselves a place to sleep because that fast forwards time. And then for chat's sake, I gave myself a truck that we have the rule I cannot sell it, because the sell point is past those trees out in the distance, and walking there with one piece of log at a time, no one was going to want to watch that. So what the absolute heck were we doing in this game? Okay, so I've got you parked here. I don't know why. You were doing the spreader. We're in February. Okay. And I was just dropping that off real fast. Okay. So, there's only bread in there, so we just sold. That's what I'm understanding, is we just sold strawberries and all that, so that's good news. But yeah, so to give you an idea when we started this run, is I started with almost nothing but that chainsaw, and that hill where it's all splotchy was covered in a forest. So we cut down the forest, sold the wood, and we used all that to give ourselves the little greenhouses you see over here. We technically had different greenhouses, but ultimately the greenhouse you see over here. And that was our initial source of income. As we did that, we slowly expanded over there, got like the most basic farming equipment. And then with that farming equipment, we were able to buy another tile of land, you know, get slightly better farming equipment. Eventually, we got to the point we got a grain mill to turn our crops that we were farming into flour to get a bit more money. And then we got a bakery to turn our flour into, words are hard. Turn our flour into bread. That's the word I'm looking for, bread. And make even more money. Now we got an oil mill we've got going on. So things are good. I believe we don't have anything to deal with crop-wise this in-game day. I think it's April, I believe, is the next major thing. I want to say we plant the sorghum in April. Alright. And I do need to move these greenhouses at some point, because all-terraining a semi and trailer, not exactly the move. But early on, we didn't really have places to put stuff. Beggars can't be choosers. So we just dealt with it. But yeah, so things have been good. Where we started with almost nothing and we slowly built up, we've reached a point in the game where I have like the second highest tier of harvester, the second largest cultivator, and a whole bunch of stuff like that. So we do genuinely have some like really solid equipment on our property now. The things we're looking at in the short term is, I remember we were looking for a bigger tractor, was one of the big ones. I'm trying to remember what else we were looking at. There was something else I had on my agenda for things to potentially buy, and I do not for the life of me remember. I'm just gonna quickly sell that handful of strawberries and all that we had. and move on from there. We won't get much money from this. This isn't like our actual full harvest. This is just some scraps that I missed. Yeah, so we want another tractor that's a big tractor, like 500 horsepower or more, that kind of range. Because I've got a little tractor we've been kind of limping along with, and it's been fine. But it's time to retire it. I could also potentially go for, there is a water trailer I can hook up to the semi. Then I can snag that on the cheap. I would potentially grab that, because that's just another thing that this can handle. There's also the crop trailer for the semi. That would be a good one. Because the whole point of this truck, this is going to be my hauler for everything. That the days of using the tractors to deal with dragging stuff around are over. We got purpose-built equipment. Alright, let's see what's on sale. Nothing I need is what's on sale. Okay. Okay. Alright, so canola we don't plant. Canola's already planted. But where's the sorghum? So sorghum we plant in April. So that's the next thing I need to deal with. We've got nothing between now and planting the sorghum. So it's basically just handling that. Alright, Panderific, you have a good one. Thank you for hanging out. Okay. So for right now, there's not a whole lot to do. We'll move the month forward one. And what we'll do this in-game day is I'm going to cultivate those fields that are for the sorghum. That way it's all ready to rock and roll for planting in April. And that'll be one good thing we can knock out real quick. And we can get that stuff going on from there. Do we have anything good on sale? Nope. Oh, I have the sugarcane planter. That said, I don't think I'm looking to do sugarcane right now. Alright, hopefully I didn't goof there. I just realized I didn't take the flour out of the grain mill. If it's full of crop, that could mean I'm missing out on potential goods. Let's see if it backed up. Okay, no, we're good. We're good. Because if it was still like full of crops and all that, and it stopped operating, that could be a potential loss in revenue because I've got a building that should be producing goods, not producing if that happened. Nope, we're fine. Okay. Hey, Luke, how's it going? Alright, so we've got 14 more. So we can load these all up onto the semi. And chuck them all in the warehouse. Because once we chuck them all in the warehouse, then that's just one less thing to deal with. And then I need to cultivate the fields. The cultivating the fields will be pretty quick, though. That won't take me much effort. Come on, give me those last two. Alright, and unfortunately with the warehouses, the way they work in the base game without mods, is you kind of have to do this thing where you drive by on one side, empty half the trailer, and then drive by on the other side. It's pretty annoying that it works that way. I really do feel like what they need to do is take that loading spot and just bring it out just a smidge. If they just brought it out, you know, like how much it's sticking out now, if they just doubled that, you'd be able to drive by and drop it all off. Because I don't think it adds any value to the game to make you do that. I think it's honestly just an oversight that they didn't think through how that impacts the player. Because you can't even, like, back the trailer into it either. The trailers are just way too long for it to be meaningful. All right, so we need to drop the sprayer, grab the cultivator. Okay, and I remember the last time we just started using Courseplay, mostly because I got tired of the AI just being bad at everything they did. So we are having to deal with getting Courseplay set up with a lot of these. It's fine. But it is those things that I take the time to set it up once, then I don't have to keep setting it up again and again and again. So let's go ahead and set up that real fast. So all Courseplay is the AI drivers in the game are pretty terrible. Like, very genuinely, very 100% awful. And so you kind of go through here and go, okay, let me figure this out. All right, so what were the buttons? It's been a while. Okay, so we had the custom field. What I'm trying to do... Oh, you know, I think I had to pull on the field for it to detect that I was there. We'll figure it out real fast, and once I get one set up, we'll be good. Create job. Open, close course generation. I don't remember any of the rules, so I'm hoping it just kind of remembers its settings. I'll say number of headlands will go to 3. Sure, and we'll also go to work with and just lower it the tiniest bit so it overlaps, because that'll help. Generate. Did you do it? Oh yeah, you did. Okay. Yeah, so see what this is doing now is it basically, instead of the AI, which normally drives out here, it tries to do this like weird loop around. It catches on trees and struggles. Is it tries to draw a path that keeps you inside the perimeter the whole time. And it'll do stuff like it'll do an outside perimeter and they'll zigzag, that kind of stuff. And all of that boils down to just trying to help it out. Oh, I forgot it's fine. I can clean it up afterwards. But it tries to help it out actually be able to do the fields and not horribly fail at it, because that's what it normally does. It'll do mostly okay until it gets to the ends of the field, and then again it'll be like, oh, I see a single tree, can't do that. So Courseplay is the way you kind of make the AI slightly smarter than a box of rocks. In the meantime, while that's doing its thing, let's grab you, because I'm going to have you grab the water and top off the greenhouses. And when we started this map, the entire map was empty of absolutely everything. The only thing on the entire map was just that point up there, and there's that little dirt road that goes to the middle of the map. So every building, every road, every light, everything you see here, I have personally placed. The bushes I did not. The bushes and the trees were here as well, but like all the buildings otherwise, I personally have been the one who set up. But yeah, so you see it's gonna go through there, it's gonna do those corners and all that. But it just stays inside that perimeter. So my current things I'm working on is we've got canola going, and the intention is to expand our canola operation for, you know, canola oil, that kind of stuff. And, you know, basically make money doing that. We've already got bread and flour and that going, so we're just diversifying our crops a little bit. Trying to have it a little less everything is coming out of one place. You have Farming Simulator 22 as well? Nice. It's a fun game. It's one of those games that when you first see it, you're like, why would anyone want to play that? And then you play it and you're like, oh, never mind, I understand. There's a lot of games that I feel like the simulation genre very specifically is kind of notorious for that. Where you have games that you look at on the surface And you kind of scratch your head and go, but why would anyone ever want to play that? Like, I don't understand. And then you play it and you go, oh, I get it now. Ooh, I actually let those things run out. Okay, well, that's going to take us a minute. Yeah, so our canola is all out. Our bread is being produced, and our grain mill's all out. So we can also end up making more grain fields and all that. I'm going to not worry about that yet. I'd like to work on differentiating our crops more. One of the other things we can also get is bees. If we get the bees, that'll help with the production of our canola, and then we also get the added bonus of honey. So that's a whole thing. It'd also be really good if we can get the bigger trailer for water for the semi. Because this one served us well, but I could certainly use more capacity. Because what I'm doing right now is I'm filling it up from here, which is costing us money. You'll notice my money counter is just rolling down slowly. That's my worker and the water I'm filling up this tank from the little thing behind me. And then we're putting in the greenhouse. The first greenhouse is now full of water. I just got to get to the second one to get that sorted out. Yeah, this has been a fun run. It's come a long way. I definitely don't miss having the 1.5 meter wide plow. That's like this little teeny tiny scrape. It's about like half the width of the water container I'm carrying. And then having to plow an entire field with that because it's all I could afford. I don't miss that at all. Or like any of that stuff, like the early game woes. Versus now, we don't have like the best equipment of most things. The seeder, we have the best seeder. But most of the equipment we don't have the best, but we have pretty close. Alright. So I gotta fill up the water again and again. It's also those things that if I get the water, I can go to the main building in the front, and it fills up the water extremely fast compared to what I'm doing here. I think it costs less as well. It's just not worth my time driving all the way there to get it fast to drive all the way back. There's a cost to that. But yeah, if I get another big tractor, that's when I start opening up the options to be able to have more than one field working on at the same time. And that'll go a long way. Steam? Yeah, it's a Steam version. The good news with Farm Sim is whether you have the Steam version, the Epic version, or the they have their own like standalone that you don't have to have a platform. You can play all of them together. You just have to have it's not that all players need to own the same DLC. It's when you make the map and you choose what DLC to include in it, everyone will need to have the DLC you have included in it. And there's quite a bit of DLC for the game. The good news is they do have it in bundles, so you can get the base game, and then you can get like the premium bundle, and then you can get the platinum bundle. And that's all you need to get pretty much everything. There's like one or two DLC that are third-party stuff. And you don't get those. But also, I have never seen a server running those. I'm sure they're out there, but none of the servers I've participated in or been invited to have been running those. They've always just run the official stuff. Farm Sim also does occasionally get some pretty good sales. They've also, in the past, done dare drops, so when a dare drop comes through, usually I have keys to give out. I don't have any at the moment, but a lot of times I'll have dare drops and I'll give out a bunch of keys. But yeah, now it's, I like showing this off, but they made me a partner. That's their logo. It's such It's not a humble brag. It's just a plain brag, and it's not even that big a deal. But it was just one of those things that, like, yeah, we wanted to, it's like, yeah, we'd like to go ahead and, like, partner with you. You play the game, yada yada. And all that means, and I don't promote it. If you buy the game, like, I have a code I can give you if you buy the game through their store. I personally don't. I want my games to be on Steam, and their code will not get you the Steam version. So I do have the thing under, like, I have a section that's like, hey, here's all the things you can do to support. I think it's like affiliate links or whatever on the Discord. And it's in there. I've never had anyone use it, but I also don't push it because, I'm gonna be honest, I wouldn't use it. Because I want the Steam version. But it is all those things that still, like, because of all the stuff where I've done YouTube videos and streams and all that sort of stuff of Farm Sim and doing these challenge runs and all that, that they're like, yeah, we'd like to do that partner thing. But then they sent me that plaque, and it's like, what? You're sending me, like, an actual, like, plaque with a medal on it and everything? You know, I'm sure it was like $20 at the local trophy shop or whatever, maybe less. But it's like, you know what? Honestly, that means something. Because that was something you didn't have to do. And you did it anyways. Okay, so that's all filled up. We've got this. So I need to use the restroom real fast, so you can go ahead and watch ourselves do a little bit of cultivating. And I'm going to use the restroom real fast, and I'll be right back. So thank you again for tuning in, and I'll be back here in just a minute. Okay, I am back. Yeah, so we're gonna be like a little bit delayed just while that's doing its thing. Unfortunately, I don't really have a second thing I need to be working on right now that I can think of. I mean, I could pick up those handful of things with the semi, but it's really no point. It's not overfilled yet. So we are kind of just waiting this. Most of the days, I don't have just one machine going. I'll have, like, this machine I'll have doing, you know, the cultivator. I'll have another machine doing the sprayer. I'll have yet another machine going and doing, like, the seeding or harvesting. And so I'll run around and have a lot. But in in March, I have just the cultivator to do. Honestly, it may not be the worst decision to... Well, no, because both the seeder and the cultivator require the big blue tractor, which is our pain point we've got going on. Is I have just the one high horsepower tractor, and I have multiple things I can be working on, but I only have one tractor that can do it. So that's the reason why we're trying to catch a tractor on a sale to get a second one. Because what I could potentially do is advance the day to the next day, have this tractor cultivating one field, and then my other tractor could be, you know, seeding another field or whatever once this, like, the first one's done. but right now we don't have enough that I could just buy outright the bigger tractor. So it's just not one of those things I can make happen at the moment. Give me one moment. Sorry about that. I forgot my dinner was sitting here. So I wanted to have a bite or two of that. Toom brought me a bunch of chocolate, and I forgot my dinner was sitting there. I ate like the main part, just I'm down to some rice or whatever. And so I was eating some chocolate. It's like, oh wait, I actually have like legit food I need to be eating here. Gotta make sure I'm eating at least relatively okay. Why are you only going 3 miles an hour? Side note, unrelated to any of that, for those who didn't see, there is the Halcyon Frequency, which is the stream team I'm on. We're getting ready to do a raid train. That won't be for a little bit yet, but the idea is we're going to do, the goal I believe is we're aiming for a full week, that it's just going to be, you know, Halcyon Frequency and a bunch of other creators, so like, you know, a bunch of creators who are like friends to the Halcyon Frequency or, you know, in our circles or whatever. They're just going to have a raid train. We're just going to go from one person to the next person to the next person and just go through for like a full week. And we got a bunch of people. Sentient Cookie is, yeah, I just recall you're on that list if I remember correctly. It was good actually catching you streaming the other day. I had noticed that like, with the past broadcast, it was like there was the one I was watching. It's like, what's the previous broadcast? 2 years ago. I'm like, oh, it's been a while. But yeah, so it's fun. But we got a whole bunch of people popping in. That should be fun. A lot of excellent creators. We got Curly in there and a whole bunch of others. I actually don't know what's announced, so perhaps I shouldn't be saying names. But either way, we got a bunch of good creators who are going to be popping in there. They're still filling up a couple of spots last I looked, but it should be fun. And then the other one is there's a charity stream I'm planning on trying to do at the end of this month that I got to get back in touch with the charity organizers. They had asked me at the beginning of the month if I'd be willing to do a stream for the charity. And it's one of these ones for, I believe this is for the Children's Hospital. One of the things to support the Children's Hospital, I believe, was the charity I was looking at. But it's just between, like, my niece and nephew visiting and a whole bunch of other stuff. It kept getting kind of pushed down the road, and finally at the point where it's like, okay, I'm ready to make this happen. So I think what we'll do is once I finish cultivating this field, we'll advance the day one, because then what I'm going to do is I will start the tractor seeding this field, check to see if we get lucky and get another tractor on sale or other piece of equipment that'd be useful to catch on sale. If we do, then I grab it and we use it. If not, what that'll let me do is I can have this tractor go and take the time to start seeding this field. I can then take the smaller tractor and drive around and start spraying the fertilizer and the herbicide and all those kind of things, so I have something to work on. The tractor here has something to work on, and all that. It would go to the next field and then start cultivating and then seeding. You get the idea. And that would be good news. But yeah, so the course, let's see, you're beyond happy at the moment. You spent literal hours trying to fix something. It turned out to be the simplest fix. Why are things so complicated yet so simple? It's just the way it is. A lot of troubleshooting is figuring out what simple thing you need to do. And unfortunately, I do not believe I can toss down herbicide, or sorry, fertilizer right now. I believe I have to, we could do the planter, which does the fertilizer, and all that as well. Okay. This game is intense, by the way. There's so many things absurd. Too many machines and little things. It's overwhelming. Well, that's kind of one of the things. I feel like the game does a really bad job of helping you get into it. They do have a tutorial that's like, here's how you use a plow, here's how you use this, here's how you use that. Okay, good luck, have fun. I really wish they did a thing where they gave you like a field and are like, okay, you're making a brand new field. Here's how you plow the field. And then that same field, they go, okay, hand wave time has gone forward. Go ahead and seed the field. Okay, hand wave time has gone forward. You may need to lime or fertilize or whatever the field to get higher yield. Maybe, maybe not introduce that. That could be something they could just ignore. But like literally just take you through one field from start all the way to the finish versus just arbitrarily showing you a couple of processes and being like, good luck, friend. Because that's really what the tutorial does. It's just kind of like, here's a plow, go do your thing. Because I feel like if they introduce you to like just growing something like wheat or canola right from the beginning, so you get that very basic, like here is just your kind of generic, straightforward crop where you've got, you know, your seeder, your plow, your harvester, and that, and you go through that process, and you just knock that out, and then they're like, cool, you did that. Then from there, you've got a basis where you go, oh, well, I want to do potatoes now. Oh, potatoes have a special seeder and a special harvester. I understand. Oh, I want to do sugarcane. Okay, well, sugarcane has, you know, its own kind of handful of special equipment. But you still have that baseline of, like, here's the 10 different steps to do a field, and 8 of them are the same. You just had 2 of them you swapped out. Keep checking the sales, expecting them to change, which they do. Oh, I don't remember what. Oh, that's not what I want. Turn it off. There we go. I'm hitting buttons and it's a dangerous thing to do. Because there's a button here. Please tell me get that rid of. No. So I'm trying to do is, for the life of me, remember what the button was to speed up and slow down time. Because I observed I'm set to real time. There we go. There we go. Which that doesn't speed up thing, but that's just the time of day kind of going by. And I'm like, you know what? At this point, let's speed up time so it's not literally real time, so we get to see more than 8 in the morning again and again. Because most of my processes are not going to take us more than like an in-game hour or whatever to knock out. And so we definitely don't want one of those things that are going to be putting in like a whole bunch of time. See, that's like 80 different things. Here's a hint. All those buttons I hit on the top, we don't care about. It's really weird that they actually give us access to that. It might be, I may have turned on like the dev mode at some point for something. Because like I know one of the video series that I didn't end up... Oh, Friends on Steam? I mean, I'm fine with people friending me. Don't expect me to respond to messages or anything on Steam. I tend to not do that. If people invite me to games, like just cold call me into games, I'll get rid of them off the friend list real fast. You know, but still overwhelming. Oh yeah, no, I totally get that. But that's the reason I wish the game gave you a tutorial, that the tutorial was literally you going through the process of a farm. Like, just one of the fields going through the entire process, start to finish, like where they handhold you through the whole thing. Because I feel like that would give you such a strong baseline that you could at least grow stuff, and then you were kind of building from there. Oh, you know what we could do? Is let's wait. What we're going to do is we're going to wait until the next in-game month, see if we can't snag good equipment that we can use. If not, what I might do is I might grab the bee boxes for the canola. So that way I have a source of honey. Honey is not particularly lucrative in this game. It does help a little bit, but the bee boxes do boost the yields of canola. So that can be worth it. That said, there are things you can use the honey for down the road. Like, there is a factory that makes cereal, and one of its requirements is honey. Alright, so we are almost done at this field. Then we'll advance the day. At which point we'll start seeding this field. We'll get the other tractor to be able to start spraying. That way I'm not just kind of watching a tractor do all the work. I'll be more involved. I could manually drive this to do it, but it honestly doesn't cost me that much to make the worker do it for me. And the worker does a much better job of being precise about it, so... You can choose to use the workers as much or as little as you want. We do have the workers economy on its normal, regular settings, like for hard. So I am paying like the full rate for the worker to do this. I just needed to deal with courseplay just because a lot of these processes the workers wouldn't handle, because the base AI in the game is appallingly bad on handling driving around. And courseplay can still get gummed up as well, but it at least takes a little bit more to get gummed up. I'm really hoping the next in-game day will just snag a tractor this size on sale, because that would be the perfect thing. Because then we can retire our little tractor to just hauling water for now. And then, like, there'll be no process that I can't be working on multiple tractors at once. Okay. Yeah, so we've got the field all cultivated. You know what map you're on? Yep. This is No Man's Land. Generally, for the Survivor Man Challenge, the two maps I've seen people use the most is No Man's Land and Calm Lands. And both of them, it's basically you've got an area that's where you buy your equipment and you sell stuff. And then a whole bunch of just like open space to build on. Because that's just the nature of the Survivor Man Challenge, is the idea of like you're going into some remote nowhere and you're building up your farm there. And the only reason you have that like base that you have to begin with is just mechanically the way the game works, is you have to have a place to buy and sell from. I have a feeling I accidentally still have stuff showing. Like, so far as, like, where it shows, like, all the cones and all that. Alright, so let's turn this off. I do. Alright. Which button was it? It's not that one. It's not that one. There we go. Okay, I think we've turned off all of the things that show like bounding boxes and physics and all that. Alright, so let's advance, and here is hoping we get a really good tractor on sale today or some other equipment worth buying. Because then the other option would be what we want to potentially consider in the event we don't catch them on sale, what we consider buying. Because it could be we just sit on the money until we catch something on sale. Alright, I mean, those are all useful, but I don't need them. Because if I wanted, I want the big tractors, and as you can see, they're sitting up here in the 200,000. So, like, the tractor I have, it's I think this one, that I've got that one fully upgraded. So I'd be looking for something in that range. I was kind of really hoping that'd be a thing. That's fine. So what we could do real fast here is I need to go and grab the cedar. There is a possibility I've got to buy supplies from the looks of it. Alright, so what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to drop off the bread real fast, and then we're going to go pick up a bunch of seed. And all that. Hey, Dark Strider, how's it going? There we go. I just need to get under there enough that we got that dropped off. So I need to grab some seed. There's going to be a good chance I'll need seed and fertilizer and a whole bunch of things. There's apparently more bread there. We'll deal with that later. Alright. So I need to get the seed so we can put down that. And once we get that sorted out, we will need to put down the, do the sprayer, do a whole bunch of other things. It's fine. Alright, so we can go here. Go to our stuff here. I want the big pallets of seeds, and I will take a full complement of 8, please. All right. And we can take that back, get our cedar all topped off, and get that to work. And then, like I said, what we end up doing is after that, once they seed it, we can have it go to the other area, start cultivating, and then seeding the other one. And then I can take the little tractor and I can spray. It's fine. But the good news is the cedar is pretty fast. I mean, honestly, the cultivator is fairly fast now as well. But, it's still something that takes a little bit of time to work on, make happen. Alright. I still need to get myself a proper place to store all my equipment. We're still not doing that, which is a whole thing. If you leave it, you can get it? Yeah? I'm assuming you're referring to the seed? Yeah, I could just drop it here. I just didn't want to drive all the way back to the buy-sell point every single time I want to top that off. Alright, so now I need to change our seed over to sorghum. And then get this into position and get them working. Alright, so let's go ahead and pull up. Alright, I also want to skip this track. They're fine, but some of those tracks I've heard enough times, I'm like, look, man, I really don't want it. So yeah, so create job. Start job. And there you go. And then meanwhile, there's another thing of bread. Are you going to pave over the initial road? Eventually. I don't own a lot of the land that the initial road is on, so I haven't bothered paving it yet since I don't own it. But eventually I will pave over, either pave over or put gravel on it or cobblestone or whatever we decide to do. It'll get something to be more interesting than just dirt. Like I've been doing here, like this is kind of a cobblestone road, and we've got like some proper concrete over here for my mill and warehouse. And same with the bakery, but this is still dirt for the time being. Are you good? Yeah, you're more good. Okay. So while it's figuring itself out, let's go ahead and get the sprayer in position. It'll be a little bit before I can do anything with the sprayer, but you get the idea. Now, this little tractor is not really up to the challenge of using this sprayer, but we've been doing it for a while because we just don't have the supplies to do it otherwise. But as you can see, it is a little tough for it to do all this. So what I'm now looking for is somewhere here we have herbicide. It's either those 3 containers over here or it's these ones over here. Liquid fertilizer. Okay, so those are all fertilizer. So that means this over here is herbicide. So there's a chance I might have to run to the purchase point to get more herbicide. Which is fine. That gives me something to do with this tractor while we wait for the planter to do its planting stuff. We're gonna make our way back to the point we buy things and get all that sorted out. All right. But yeah, for those hanging out, we do play a whole mess of different games on the channel. It is those things that we bounce around regularly. I'm just adjusting some things to their screen. I do think the one I'm really looking forward to the most right now is I'm looking forward to the 1.1 update to Coral Island, which is a slice of life game. I'm really looking forward to City Skylines 2 has a major update that's dropping in 2 days. So that's probably what we're going to be doing for that point. If you lease, you can get our tractor. That's against the rules of my challenge. We are doing a Survivor Man challenge, so I'm not allowed to lease or take loans. I gotta do everything with the money I already have. Alright, so we needed the herbicide. So 1, 2, I'll try 3 of those. But yeah, so I started challenge with $0. I'm not allowed to take loans or leases. If I was on a map that had contracts to it, I wouldn't be allowed to take the contracts with my rules. That said, the Survivor Man challenge is a thematic challenge, so everyone will have their own different rule sets. So, like, if you see someone else who's doing it and they are doing contracts, it's not that they're breaking the rules or anything like that. They just have given themselves a different rule set. There's nothing wrong with it. You know, it is a game that, you know, you play either by yourself, which means who cares what rules you make for yourself? You're the only one subjected to them. Or you're playing with friends and all that, at which point, whatever rules that you and your friends agree upon is what you're doing. So that's just fine either way. It's not like you go on some, like, official competitive server where you see who can farm the most. You have to have these rigid rules and all that. I'm sure there is that in existence, but that'd be special exceptions. And I'm just repairing and gassing up while we're here. I have debated at some point giving Construction Simulator another go. That was one of those ones that I could see myself playing it on the harder settings where everything is a bit more laborious. Like digging the hole has to be more precise and a whole bunch of stuff, which would probably not make good content for the channel. But I liked the idea of it. It is another simulation style game. It was definitely... It had a wider range of things you did. It definitely was a bit more on the janky side because it would have all these individual processes you had to do, and a lot of them didn't work great. But it was more interesting seeing, like, the construction projects get built up gradually. I've also debated playing some more SnowRunner, going back to that at some point, because that was one that people seem to enjoy, the quote-unquote truck is stuck simulator. That one I'm curious about. I need to look at how it's doing. They came out with their sequel, Expeditions, a Mud Runner game, and that did, like, it had its brief moment in the light, and then very quickly flopped. And I don't know, a lot of times when you have your latest release flops, it kills the interest in the previous game with it. So I gotta look into that more and see what does and doesn't make sense with that. Alright, so it's still doing the headlands, unfortunately. But that's fine. We can get this in position, get the semi, grab the stuff from the greenhouses. Maybe do a little cleanup and terraforming. See what we can't figure out. Because I've talked about moving those greenhouses as well. That we put them there early on when I didn't really own anywhere else to put them. And I can certainly see taking the time to find somewhere to tuck them a bit more suited. The other thing I was talking about was potentially buying a plot of land. Hey, Jaywalker, welcome back. I could certainly see buying a section of land as well to, again, let me expand the crops more. It's just, if I do buy the land, it means we're definitely not getting the tractor. At least not this harvest. It'll be like the next one or whatever. Because I want to say a tile of land is like 88,000 or something like that. No, you already have spots you can be. Eventually, we'll probably get to the point where I have so many different vehicles running around doing their own thing. We'll almost just like drive the truck around the map as sort of like a surveyor of all the work happening. But we're nowhere near that yet. We don't have nearly enough fields to justify being completely hands-off. All right. And the good news is once we get this planted, I don't have to worry about that for a while. We can go directly over to Oh, I see. I don't actually have a map charted on this one yet. I'm seeing the markings for the other field. Like, we're not ready to spray. I'm just trying to gauge where I'll need to position this. American Truck Simulator? Yeah, I played a bunch of American Truck Simulator. It's an excellent game. That was one of the ones I debated playing tonight. Honestly, one of the things that kind of chilled me about it is, generally speaking, Farming Simulator has done better on the channel. And then the last time I played American Truck Simulator, which was directly after when the DLC dropped, it was pretty bad turnout. Now that said, that is just a one-off, so it's not really enough to make any meaningful decisions off of. But it was one of those things that we wrapped up the night with American Truck Simulator, which was just like really, really low viewership. Now that said, it very well could have suffered. I can't remember. I think we had like a proper hard crash, like reboot the computer kind of thing with a different game, and that oh no, it wasn't a hard crash. We had something that made it so it was like I had the problem where the stream disconnected and dropped like everyone kind of thing. And I was like, oh well, let's see if I play this, if we end up getting people back. And so I did another delivery, and it was just one of those things that like whatever happened like properly borked the stream. So it's kind of one of those ones that you just kind of wrote off the night, being like, all right, well that's what it is. I was playing. I think we actually had intended on playing Farm Sim that night, and I had a graphics card driver update that it was just a bad driver update that NVIDIA rolled it out and then immediately, like a couple hours later, recalled it kind of thing. But I happened to just be unlucky and got it in that window, and it was just certain games. It was causing like full-on take out the computer kind of crashes. And so it ended up taking down the stream that like Farm Sim was one of the games that it was crashing with. And so it just straight up took down the whole stream. I couldn't bring the stream back up right away. The disconnection protection failed and everything, so everyone got left behind. And it just kind of was one of those things that just killed the stream for the night. So it's just, I did another delivery to see if we'd start seeing the numbers come back up, and it did, but not meaningfully. So it's like, all right, it was too close to the end of stream to be able, to be willing to wait that out. It was like, all right, it borked, it happens. But yeah, and then it was one of those things that right after stream, it took me about no time at all to just look up and be like, hey, what's going on? Oh, bad driver. Okay. The American Truck Simulator 2? Yeah, no, it's a good game. I definitely recommend people checking out American Truck Simulator. If you're into simulation games, American Truck Simulator and Euro Truck Simulator, they're kind of the same game, different locations. They're kind of just like the de facto for certain things. All right. So I am noticing the Courseware AI drives much slower than the normal AI, because it does take the time to carefully reposition and all that. And like, it's not just backing up at speed, it's backing up slowly. Which I think is entirely fair for it to do that. I think that's a reasonable compromise, that I've got this AI that's doing a bit better than the normal AI would, but as kind of a compensation for it, it's a little less efficient on its work, so it costs me a little bit more to get the same work done. That's probably fine. I can probably redo this course here. That I made it so that overlap, I think I just made it so it overlap way too much. It probably just need to be like 1 tick. Versus I think I gave it like half a meter or something like that. Which is a bit more than necessary. But yeah, it's like when it goes here, it starts slowing down. Like really early. And I think that's that way just through the course, where it's probably software to make sure it can be like precisely right, because it probably has to wait for the GPS coordinates to update and, you know, then react based on that. Alright, so let's go here. It'll pull up to the field and get the courseware mapped in. So create a job here, generate, take it down 1 tick, so it just ever so slightly overlaps. That's all fine. Make 3 headlands. If I don't even know if they'll get 3 headwinds. So you go ahead and generate that. Yeah, so you see how fast the sprayer is going to go by comparison to the seeder. Is it's literally going to be 1 pass, 2 pass, and then cut down the middle, it's done. But in the meanwhile, I can't really do it until this is out of the way. But that's okay. That's just the nature of Farm Sim. I don't have quite enough equipment to do all the things, so I gotta just have people wait their turn. I do appreciate courseplay. Alright, now it should just zigzag the rest of that field. And that should go relatively quick. Because it seems like the headlands are really slow, and then the zigzag is, you know, relatively fast. Because it means you're inside, they don't have to worry about being quite as precise, because if you go over, it's not a big deal. Alright. It is curious that when it generates it's like, it doesn't do straight lines to line up with the other, it does an ever so slight angle to it. And I'm curious as to why it does it that way, but I think it's fine. It is getting cold in here. And for those who missed the earlier part of the stream, we did discuss the bit with Sunhaven and Sunnyside, because we played both those games this past week.
Take a sip. What's the worst that could happen?
All right, Lardine, you go ahead and get your sleep, man. Like, headaches are not a good time, so I do hope you end up feeling a whole lot better. And I can go ahead and do that hydrate from Sheep in a Cart. But we did Sunhaven and we did Sunnyside this past week. Both of them were slice of life games. That Sunnyside was a brand new release that came out this past week. And then let's see. And for those who missed the first part of the stream, and where were you? Probably having responsibilities or spending time with other people or watching other content creators. I know you out there. I know you. Some of you watching other people. I understand. I don't like it. How dare you? Nah, it's fine. But yeah, no, it's just one of those things that we played Sunhaven the one day. We played Sunnyside, and both of them got mixed stats on the channel. And so I was like, all right, let's just do a poll. So while I had my couple days off, I had the poll saying, hey, you know, would you like to see more of these games? And the response, I would call it lukewarm, that Sunnyside basically got very little love. Only a couple of people were like, yeah, I'd like to see more of that. Whereas Sunhaven had a little bit of support, but the vast majority of the support was with the I don't care / I'm not interested in these games option, which admittedly I probably should have separated those, but it's fine. But the point was, we got some questionable numbers from the streams of those games, and then the poll also was lukewarm, so it was just kind of those things that's like, to me this is a really strong indicator the interest just isn't there, which is totally fine. But with that said, I am not looking at like we're going to be going back to Sunhaven or Sunnyside in the immediate future. It's just Sunhaven is such a long game that if there isn't like actual significant interest, it's just really not worth me investing the time, because that's a 7-8 kind of stream game. And if like the opening act, people are already like, that does not bode well for it. Which for the record of like those stats, it was Sunhaven had good viewership, but it was tied for the highest number of followers lost in a single stream. That said, it's no longer tied just because of the way of things falling off. Pacific Drive did take the crown for the most number of followers lost playing a game, and that happens. And I just think it was the art style of Sunhaven a lot of people found off-putting. Who unfollows? So that's the catch. Some of those unfollows can be people who were on the platform and got banned or delete their account and that kind of stuff. So that's one thing, is it could just be people who followed the channel, maybe even bots or whatever, that got purged. That's always a possibility. It could also be people who popped in the channel and they normally come here for like RimWorld or Project Zomboid. They saw adorable chibi-looking characters and went, no, this isn't what I want. Because there's definitely people who get really weird about if they see like anime and that kind of stuff, that are like, whoa, no, that's not what I'm looking for. Which, you know, I'm not exactly like the biggest person for that art style or whatever, but it is those things I acknowledge. It's like, hey, you know what? That may not be necessarily my jam, but that's a little bit much of a response. Like, there's definitely people who, when they see like the kawaii chibi thing, it like visibly makes them uncomfortable. Which it's fine, but it's kind of one of those things you also want to be, but also hear me out, maybe get over it. It's one thing to not like it. That's totally fine. I understand. I get it. But like, for genuinely, if it makes you uncomfortable, it's like, all right, that might be something to work on. There's probably something to unpack there. You still follow channels you haven't streamed in years? Yeah, I'm generally the same. There's been a handful that over the years that, like, you know, I watched a couple of their streams, followed, and then they haven't streamed in years. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I'll get rid of this person just because whatever. Most of the channels I've unfollowed in the channel's history it was someone I was following who they either did something behaviorally that I was like, I really don't want to be associated with that in any kind of way, Like, I won't say any names. We did have one individual who, it kind of came out that they had drinking problems, that when they were having those drinking problems, that their behavior was not acceptable, is the way I will phrase it. We don't even need to dig into that farther. And it had been kind of a reoccurring problem, and as that kind of broke, I was like, yeah, I don't think I wanna keep this person in my circle anymore. Which, like I said, it's not on me to, like, say their name or whatever, but it's just someone I no longer raid them or whatever. It's not a big deal. Like, I mean, what they did is a big deal, but it was just kind of those things like, that's just a person I don't want to interact with. You know, maybe if they properly get their stuff together, that's a different story, but considering it sounds like it's been a long-curring trend, yeah. You generally don't unfollow unless there's something that majorly upsets you. Right. And that's kind of the way I would put it, is most of the time if I unfollow someone, it's because they're actively doing something like, yeah, I don't like that. Like that is something I don't want to see it, I don't want to be part of it. And that's not very often. It's happened single-digit times since I've been on the platform. Which is whatever. So it's pretty rare. That said, there are a lot of people who, they'll follow a whole bunch of channels. They'll be into, say, Product Zomboid. They'll be into Product Zomboid for a while. They'll follow a whole ton of Product Zomboid channels. They'll play a bunch of Product Zomboid, and then they'll burn out and decide they don't like Product Zomboid anymore. And that happens. And that's not a comment on Product Zomboid. That's just, in general, you have people like, they adore a game, they put in a couple thousand hours, and then they just basically want nothing to do with that game anymore because they burn themselves out. And understandably, they're basically like, yeah, you know what, I'm not interested in seeing this game anymore, and they'll unfollow people, and that's fine. That tends to be the type of person who is kind of like a game-based follower, that they really have like their hyper-focused game, and that's just what they watch. Admittedly, the way I would phrase it is that isn't the audience I target, is the way I will phrase that. And what I mean by that is, I certainly don't mind those people being in the channel. They build my viewership up, they see the ads, which supports me, they'll sub, they'll buy bits, they do all those things, so it's like, I'm not unhappy with them being here. At the same token, that's not a viewer I'm going to prioritize, because I know I'm a variety streamer and I'm going to switch games, which inherently means that I am going to ultimately, you know, switch the game, and when I do, I expect there to be a viewer lost. So it's kind of just, it just means like there's not a motivation for me to like prioritize doing what I can to draw more such viewers in. Like, certainly I'm going to play the game, people are going to hop by, and, you know, they're going to treat them as part of the community and all that stuff. Like, I'm not going to, like, treat them like second-class citizens or something. But, it's just when I'm making decisions for the channel, and it's like, what's good for my larger audience, or what's good for the viewers who are just for one game, I'm going to always focus on the larger channel. Actually, there was a stream that you unfollowed, but they got banned from the platform before I knew they had done something that you can't repeat on stream. Yep. Oh yeah, no, we don't need to open anything else going on. There is certainly news going on in that regard, about people who have been removed from the platform and things they may or may not have done. And I know I have been having many a discussion with other creators about, you know, thoughts and all that related to that. We don't need to go into that. It is those things that, generally speaking, it's frowned upon to disparage about creators and all that. I have my opinions, but they're not relevant. But, there's been news, trending news on Twitter about a creator who got banned from the platform, and a whole legal mess it became. So, if you don't want to deal with that garbage, it's probably a good time to dodge Twitter for a little while. Because it's getting round. Yeah, no, that's exactly, like, I am identifying there is a topic, and that if you aren't into streamer drama, Twitter is the streamer drama at the moment. And if you want to, you know, curiosity, look it up yourselves, that's your own thing. But for me personally, I have my beliefs of things and what happened and yada yada and how I approach it, which is honestly not really worrying about it in any capacity whatsoever because it doesn't really impact me. That's basically where my stance on that is. It's like, okay, if they did that awful thing, that's awful, but also, like, that doesn't change anything. Like, I don't watch their content. They're not on the platform anymore, so I will watch them. I will not watch them any more than I already am, which is none. But yeah, I generally avoid streamer drama. I got better things to do with my life. Like, literally anything. Twitter's your favorite place? No. I genuinely, if it wasn't for all the different things that kind of pressure me into using Twitter for my work, which is, you know, content creation and all that, I would probably, at a minimum, I would stop using Twitter. I might even go as far as deleting my account. My professional software development account, because I have my content creation account and I have separately, like, my software dev account. I keep those two things separate because, you know, keep the content creation life separate from the rest of your life, because people get weird. And it's good when they get weird if they can't figure out where you live particularly easily. Just saying. But my dev account has basically been, I think in the last 2-3 years I've posted twice on that account. The only reason you have Twitter is you can't stand Facebook. Yeah, for me the issue is when you get sponsors, a lot of times they'll be like, we need 2 social media posts. And for the longest time they specifically said we need 2 Twitter posts. Now they're getting better about, instead of saying, like, sometimes they'll still say Twitter, but they're getting a lot better about, they'll say we need 2 social media posts. And the implication is on whatever platform you have the largest audience, you know, choose your phrasing. But, like, where posting will have the most impact that they would want is kind of the way to think of it. Okay, so grab you, create job, open generator. Let's just go for the 2. I feel like 2's plenty. Take that down just 1 notch. We'll generate it. Okay, okay. And we will back up. But yeah, so it's one of those things, you have that, and then plus, very genuinely, when you're in content creation, the fact of the matter is you kind of want to be anywhere there's people like to generate. Obviously, like, you don't want to compromise your morals or ethics or anything like that. And there are certainly places that aren't worth being on, and there's a lot to say that Twitter might be one of those places. Probably is one of those places if we're being blunt here. But yeah. I am curious how well this does, because that doesn't actually back up properly. If you're noticing, it's trying to shove the sprayer back, and it's getting all misaligned and twisted. Yeah, so it missed the corner with the herbicide. I'll just try and correct it. And that's because the herbicide, or the sprayer container, is so heavy for this particular tractor that ultimately what it does is it pushes down on the hitch on the back of that tractor, which lifts the front wheels up. So when it goes to turn, it's, you know, the wheels it's trying to use to turn aren't touching the ground, so it doesn't work. And so you'll see where it'll start like going back, it'll kind of like turn sideways and drift and all that. And that's what's happening. That's the reason I said this particular tractor really isn't technically up to snuff to do this job, but at the same time, it's the only other tractor I got, so it's gonna have to just do its best. Have you ever seen the cartoon as a kid, The Little Train That Could, where it's, you know, it's going up the hill going, I think I can, I think I can? It's if someone turned around and said, hey, what if we doubled your load? At which point, you know, then it stops being a kid-friendly cartoon because, you know, the little train that could starts, you know, cussing up a storm. Because that's the appropriate reaction for that kind of thing. Yeah, so you can see it's trying to straighten it out in the back, but it's kind of sliding around a little bit. That was, got to hang out with the niece and nephew the last couple of days a whole lot. They've been visiting from out of state. And it's kind of fun, because, like, they're fairly young. And so the niece is into kittens and snakes, which is certainly an interesting combination. Like, kittens, you're like, okay, sure, you know, it's a little girl. Kittens make sense. And a snake's like, hey, you know what? Nothing wrong with that. Unexpected. Oh, that made me realize something I saw earlier today. On the way to visiting my folks, because today was the last day I got to see them before they ship out, so I drove over to where my family lives to hang out before stream and all that. That's part of the reason I'm running on no sleep, is waking up early to do all that. We saw like a full-blown, like, 6-8 foot alligator on the side of the road, like roadkill on the side of the road. And all I can think is, oh my god, what happened to the car that hit that? Because, holy crap, that's like hitting a tree laying down in the road types of weight. Like, whatever car hit that is probably not able to drive anymore. Because that was not a little alligator. You don't see that very often. Usually they'll stay off the road when they go to sun. I don't know if they're just smart enough to realize it, or, you know, it's a big freaking gator, so if you're driving on the road and it comes in the road, you know, you see something the size of like half a tree laying on the road and go, not gonna do that. And they stand out really well on the road because they're usually really dark and the road is really not. But yeah, it was just like this ridiculous gator. As if it was a semi-trailer, etc., they wouldn't really have had issues. I don't know. Like, let's do a comparison. So, if you have a semi with a trailer, for example, and you lay a log across the road, we're talking like a fallen tree, a full-size fallen tree. You know, the log like that big around. That's the kind of weight you're talking about trying to shove out of the way suddenly. I'm pretty sure even a semi-trailer is gonna... It may not disable it, but it's certainly not having a good time. You certainly got some probably decent damage on the front of your vehicle. It'd be like, not as bad as hitting a moose. A moose is gargantuan. Yeah, no, it would definitely be significant. Like, I could see the radiator being potentially all destroyed. Hey JTX, I'm not actually playing multiplayer, so it's not like a personal thing or anything. Generally speaking, I primarily play solo games. Not never multiplayer, but not often multiplayer. This poor tractor is trying its darndest to push that sprayer. It is just definitely not up to the task. Yeah, it sucks about the animal. I hope the poster okay. Yeah, no, it is one of those things that sucks, because I'm trying to remember. So, I don't believe the American alligator is protected. Because you have like endangered, or it's like, what is it? Endangered, threatened, protected, and then there's like one lower, like, basically you go down from it's like, okay, the population's a little bit of a concern to, oh my god, this thing is basically on the edge of extinct. Like, and you got like the different tiers, and I want to say it's at like that first tier, like at the very top, where like it's just barely in the like, hey, we're keeping an eye on it, don't bother it. I want to say American alligators are there if I remember correctly, versus like manatees are doing way worse for a whole range of reasons, and while some of them are our fault, there are actually environmental ones that are not our fault. Like we had a couple years back, we had a really bad freeze, and that's really bad for manatees. That manatees having a proper freeze is really rough. Oh yeah, no, I play Farm Sim 22 from time to time. But yeah, no, it's manatees have had it pretty rough. Like they've had like, it used to be the big thing was people hitting them with boats was like the huge thing causing them problem. But these days it's the two big ones that are causing them grief now, the manatees that is while they do hit boats, it's actually gotten way better that doesn't happen very often anymore. There's like lots of wake zone, like no wake zones. People are a lot more conscious about it. The people involved in the legal side of things, making sure you're not doing stuff you're not supposed to be doing, are a lot more on the ball when people are messing around in that way. So that's all gotten really good. But the two big things that are threatening them is one, with weather being a lot more erratic. We're dealing with stuff again like the big freezes we had the one year that really, like, we had all of like everyone who could take manatees in for rescue was doing so because it was like that bad of a catastrophe. Like everyone was bringing them in to try and save as many as we could. And then on top of that, the other one is I'm gonna have it wrong whether it's an algae or a bacteria. I want to say it's an algae, but they had problems with an algae that was growing on the seaweed that the manatees eat. And the problem is that algae caused paralysis. So the manatees would eat the seaweed, they would get paralyzed, and that's not good when you're a thing that needs to breathe air. Which sounds like a truly horrifying thing to deal with. And if I remember correctly, the primary cause for the algae blooms getting out of control was basically fertilizer runoff, primarily from like residential gardening, and that a bunch of people were just, they grow a plant and they give it like 10 times the fertilizer it needs. Half of it washes away, gets into the rivers, and then the seaweed has a really good time because it's being fed a ridiculous amount of fertilizer. On the other hand, that was the most Florida thing to see. Yeah. Alright, so we need to drop off the herbicide, so there's that. And grab the fertilizer. It'll be that next. But yeah, and I want to say they've done a lot of stuff with the algae to improve things, that they have not restrictions, it's been more an awareness thing, basically saying, hey, you're wasting a heck of a lot of money on fertilizer that you're just dumping in the river. Stop doing that. So there's been like a lot of the gardening associations and all those type of things that people end up being members of and all that they're doing more to educate people on like not being wasteful with their fertilizer. And then a lot of the local stores that were selling the fertilizer, your local Home Depots and all that, they're doing a lot more to help that. A lot of algae control is getting people to wash their boats when moving them. Yeah, I mean, that may be a thing. Like, I don't have a boat, nor do I particularly have interest one, so I could certainly see that being another angle. But it was basically they went through the education side, being like, hey, here's things you can do to help prevent getting this super dangerous algae, you know, like, and not helping it, like, get out of control. Because that was the big problem, isn't that the algae existed, it was seeing these ridiculous blooms that were just taking over. Okay, and you're still going. Yeah, so I think a lot of it was just education on that side. And a big thing was honestly getting the retail stores on board, which is I will give credit to a lot of them that they do a lot of good stuff with that kind of thing, where a lot of times when you look at a retail store, obviously they want to sell you more of their product. So in this case, fertilizer. You know, so you'd imagine, you know, places like Home Depot or whatever, you know, insert name, this isn't even about Home Depot, insert name of any garden store that sells fertilizer, they would have an interest in you buying more of their fertilizer. So if you're using it wastefully and you need to buy it more, that's just more of a win to them because you're spending more money needlessly. And you don't even realize you're doing anything wrong. But even then, they did that push, and from my understanding, they were like really good that they had a lot of those groups were really good about being on top of being like, hey, just so you know, this thing, when it says like you need like this tiny little scoop per month, they mean that tiny little scoop. you don't need to give it a proper shake and coating. Like you're talking a teaspoon here. You really don't need much. But it was still one of those things where like, no, this is the right thing to do. And I think a big part of it is because the animals it was hurting are pretty beloved. Manatees are one of those animals that you kind of can't dislike. They're cute in their own lumpy-faced sort of way. They're kind of like innocent of everything. They just want to like snuggle up with your boat, which is what gets them hurt really bad. They just kind of want to snuggle up with your boat, and it can be annoying at times, but you know, they're super wholesome and endearing, even if they're big, lumpy sea cows. But they're cute. They're cute and they're precious, and you don't want them to get hurt. Versus, like, if someone was like, oh, you're over-fertilizing, it's hurting the spiders, you would have a whole bunch of people that's like, yes, get the spiders. You know, and then we'd have a billion mosquitoes and everyone would hate existence because you killed all the spiders. But, you know, you'd have less people being empathetic to the plight of the spiders. Or cockroaches, or insert any thing that people just generally are like, ugh. I don't particularly have a problem with any specific insect. Honestly, I think like the only animal we'd be like, no, actually screw that animal, is there's this type of snake that's got the name cottonmouth and water moccasin. Very genuinely like, screw that animal. I have no problem with snakes, but that is like a snake that someone said, what if it was just angry all the time? That is what that snake is. So it's not snakes, it's that very specific individual type of snake is just an angry snake. Oh yeah, no, they're super venomous. They're really dangerous. They're dangerous, they're territorial, and they're very aggressive. So, well, most snakes are super chill. You see, like, rattlesnakes and all, as long as you don't, like, step on them or, like, get really on top of them, they're just like, whatever. Like, you keep your distance, I'll sit here, we just chill, everyone's fine. Maybe I go my way, maybe I coil up and be like, yo. But that. What about mice? You have no issue with them until they invade your house after that? Well, I mean, so the beauty is I live in this place called Florida where we got snakes out the yin yang. Do you know what we don't have? Mice. Because we got snakes out the yin yang and those mice don't get anywhere. That's kind of the joke we have here is you have your choice. You can have snakes or mice. Pick your poison. It's like, well, snakes won't eat your wiring. When I lived up north, we had chipmunks. So we didn't have mice, but we had chipmunks. But it's kind of the same thing. As they get in your house and they chew up all your stuff and they'll get into your thing. Need to go to bed? All right, you sleep well. Thank you again for tuning in. But yeah, no, they tear up everything. They dig holes in your drywall and all that kind of stuff. The only creatures you want to exterminate from existence is parasites. I can see that. I could see being like, yo, let's get stuff like ticks out of here. I wouldn't want to actually get behind that because I'm sure that'd be one of those things that has the ripple effect that you're like, oh, by the way, this has wiped out ostrich. And you're like, but why? It's like, oh, well, you know, this animal eats that animal, and this animal actually makes a habitat for this other animal that then the ostrich eats that animal. Like, nature is always, like, so intertwined. They'd be like, okay, nothing eats it. We can get rid of it. Nothing eats it. It'll be fine. And it'll be like the 6-step removed, and then suddenly this other animal is like, you know, at death's door just trying to make it. You're like, but why? You're pretty sure scientists have said that we can totally remove mosquitoes without a large impact? I'm willing to... Part of me hopes it's one of those things that, like, it's not actually true. It's just that particular scientist just really didn't like mosquitoes. Just really personally didn't like mosquitoes. Like, oh no, I checked. We can kill them and it'll be fine. But yeah, no, actually there's a lot of things that eat mosquitoes. There's lots of birds and other stuff that eat mosquitoes. That said, there's a lot of negative with mosquitoes. They're pretty upsetting. And they do lead to a lot of disease and all that. But unfortunately, there are a lot of things that they are a primary part of their diet. So regrettably, while I too would love the idea of a mosquito-less world, you'd also be losing a lot of birds and other stuff, and then, you know, the things that eat those birds and yada yada. You get the whole idea. Butterfly effect. Nature does that one all the time. We went to, there's an area nearby here that's got like a whole area where they keep alligators, and they keep other animals there as well. A lot of them are rescues from where, you know, people took them as pets, and they're not the kind of animals you're supposed to take as pets. You know, jaguar, lynx, lemurs, those kind of things you're not really supposed to take as pets. And then, you know, they end up rescuing them or whatever. But part of the thing is that location also has a Native American tribe site on there for... There was a tribe called the Eyes, which is a Florida-based tribe. And so when you hear about violence tribes, that's actually who you're talking about. Most of the Florida tribes are super-duper chill. I mean, I shouldn't say super chill. They weren't particularly warlike, with the exception of the Eyes, because they lived in a really terrible place. But they were talking about... Hey, thank you for the raid, John Dearman. I hope you had yourself a good stream, and I'm just going to go on a guess here with the username. Were we playing some Farming Simulator tonight? And if so, how did it go, and what were you doing? But welcome in, raiders. But what they did show is the way they caught alligators back then. And so what they would do is they put these posts, and they'd line up these posts and then narrow in the front. And they would do something to draw the gator's attention to get it to follow them into the posts. So it'd splash something on the water, whatever. There you go. Was doing some logging? Nice. Fun times. Welcome in. So if you're looking for more farm sim, you can find it over there with John Dearman. And thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. But you know, they'd splash something on the water or whatever, and they get the alligator to come into the posts. And so the idea is, if you look at it, it kind of starts where it's got like the flat end where there's a bunch of posts, and it kind of comes back and it makes like a little bit of a narrow and goes through. And the reason they've done that is the alligator goes in and it can't go forward, so it goes to start backing out. But the problem is it's got a really big tail, and the big tail doesn't just go straight back and forth. It tries to go to the side when it pushes back. So the tail gets slides in between the posts on the side, thereby kind of trapping the alligator in that space. Hey, thank you so much for the biddies. I do appreciate that. So thank you for the 100 biddies, John Deere. I do appreciate that, and thank you so much for the support. All right, so we can go ahead and get you into position. Oh, right, we got to go this way. But the thing I found, like, and that's interesting, just using clever, like using the alligator's anatomy against it. But the other thing they did is for actually killing the alligator. You know, alligators have ridiculously hard hide. You gotta go to bed? No problem. Thank you again for the raid. You sleep well. But they got ridiculously hard hide to the point that they're bulletproof from most guns you'll have, like, around your house or whatever. Like, so typical shotguns and all that. Gator doesn't care. It'll piss it off, but, like, it won't break the hide. It won't breach the hide. So it's very durable. So them taking, you know, we don't have much in the way of stone here. So they didn't have like stone or metal spears. A lot of their spears were just wood tipped, or they'd have like a shark tooth or whatever on the end. Needless to say, trying to pierce something that's effectively bulletproof, that has extremely dense hide, is not really gonna work with a wooden stick with a little bit of a pointy bit on the end of it. So what they ended up doing is they would deliberately mess around with the gator's face to try and get to snap at him. And when the gator opened its mouth to hiss to snap at him, they would take a full-on log, like a tree log. They get two or three guys together, and it just vaguely had kind of a point to it, and they would just shove it in its mouth. And I'm like, you know what? That makes sense. That would work. I don't know about you, but if I open my mouth to full size and someone rams a freaking tree into it, it's gonna be bad for my health. Yeah, and that's there's definitely places they do mosquito control and all that. That was one of the ones they were doing. It was they were putting a fungus on the walls of their homes. That they would take this fungus, they would get down to the spores, and they would spread the spores on the house and all that. And so what would happen is the mosquitoes would land on it, and the fungus would attack the mosquitoes. It was one of these funguses that would attack insects. And so the idea, it was the mosquito would still have offspring, so you wouldn't get mosquitoes that are immune to the fungus, because that's a problem with like a lot of the pesticides. You kill a whole bunch of mosquitoes, and then the ones that survive are typically resistant or immune to the pesticide, and now you've got a breed of mosquitoes that don't care about your pesticide. Like, there's a group of mosquitoes that I think it was even DEET didn't work on it, that they would get DEET, and the mosquito could get the DEET in, realize it's consumed DEET, and it would basically spit it out and go on its merry way. So then a bunch of mosquitoes started becoming immune to the pesticides they were using. And by doing it this way, because they had offspring, they didn't have an opportunity to develop an immunity. Yeah, some of the genetically modified do not survive to adulthood, but pesticides to kill them off is still very popular. Yeah, it's just one of those things that then you get the breeds, you have to like rotate out your pesticides because they develop resistance. It's like usually more resistance than immunity, so it takes a bit more to get them. But yeah, that was the whole thing. I remember reading about that, or again, like I said, they would take this mushroom and they would smash up, get all the spores, and they'd almost like paint the edges of their roofs with it, where the mosquitoes typically land, and it would kill the mosquito some number of days later. But it was enough that the offspring would happen, but it would knock down the population pretty hard. So it was a way of wiping out the population, but in a very controlled manner. But yeah, no, it's interesting reading about like different solutions you had, because like it was just one of those things that like for discovering that area where the natives had been, it was, man, what were they building? Was it a hotel? They were building something on the coast, and they started digging down, and they found a stone, like a really polished stone. They're like, okay, that's really weird, and they kind of tossed it aside. And a little while went by later, and they found a second one. They're like, all right, what's going on here? Because very genuinely, like Florida's built up on a limestone aquifer. We don't get like granite style stones. Like that's just not a thing that happens here. Like we were built on what was effectively a whole bunch of seashells being ground to a pulp. There is no rock below here that's like granite or marble or anything like that. So finding like bits of granite and marble or anything like that is super weird and unusual, because it's just not present in our area. But they found, then like, all right, we found something, and then that led them to finding skeletons and all that. That it was I think to this day it is the most well preserved human remains that have been found. There was this like, it was this like peat moss bog, that just the nature of the water here being more sulfur based than a lot of places, where normally peat moss, when you have remains are preserved in them, they mostly lose their bones, so you'll have like all the tissue but the bones get eaten up by the things in the peat moss. But just by the nature of what was here, it basically prevented oxygen and all that, so it wouldn't attack the bones either. And they found it something like 125, because again, it was a burial location for natives that lived in the area. That was it's like ridiculously old. But they found it because they were digging this area up, and they kept finding these rocks, going, what the hell is, like, where did these rocks come from? And then they put two and two together, like, oh, someone brought them here, like this is like a location. And they had already dug up part of it, so like that part of it they kept doing their thing, but they preserved the entire rest of the area that they had planned to dig up, so it could be an archaeological dig or whatever. And I want to say they didn't even pull up everything. They left some of it down there because they're like, all right, once you pull it up, like, it's now on a clock to try and preserve it, and maybe we'll have better ways to extract it later. Hey, Rice, how's it going? Yeah, it's also interesting seeing the way people survived in different locations based on availability. I'm doing good. Like, again, Florida doesn't have metal, it doesn't have good stone. Limestone is absolute garbage for using for any kind of meaningful tool. So most of the tools for the local population were made out of bone and shells and those kind of things. And a lot of them were like really good tools, but you used what you had. For their spears, they would look for gator teeth and shark teeth is what they'd use for the tips of their spears, because that was easy to, well, you could get a hold of them, I shouldn't say easy, versus like getting a stone to try and sharpen it, you just wouldn't find it, because again, you're dealing with limestone, which is hot garbage for any of that. Alright, so we're getting the seeds down, we're getting ready to put the spray this stuff down as well, so that's all good. Okay, so grab you, create job, do that. No, 2 headlands is what we'll go with. Alright, we'll get this all situated, so as soon as that tractor's done... and get you sorted. Alright, so we are doing that, getting it going. Yeah, so the first item fell off there. Okay, so the good news is, once this is done, we'll have all that handled. We're going to end up having the other fields will end up getting harvested soon. We definitely need that second tractor. That second tractor would make this so much easier because I could have one of these cultivating, the other one seeding. And in a pinch, I could have the little tractor doing the sprayer as well. But realistically, with the two of them, they would be so much faster that I would just grab whichever one finished first and have it deal with the sprayer. And that would work great. And all that. Oh, that was the other thing, was it's fun when you're dealing with like little kids. And this is going back to again where my niece and nephew were visiting. And so my niece is playing with my nephew. He had like these like, it was like a little teeny excavator, a little teeny bulldozer, a little teeny like backhoe and all that. And you know, she had this like little cup of these like plastic gems and she was using the like little things to drop them in. You know, it's just whatever. And going is like, hey, you see that truck you're using there? So to give you an idea how big that thing is, if I stand up as like tall as I can, that wheel is more than twice my height. And that's a little one. And it's like, that's so ridiculous. Like, yeah, and if we get to like strip mining, that thing doesn't even like measure up. Like the tires on those strip mining dump trucks and all that could be like the size of a building moving around. Like, they get just so absurdly large. Like, industrial equipment gets just so ridiculous when you start looking at the scale of some of them. That's actually one of the things I would love to see Farm Sim mess with it in the future of their stuff. Is I would love to see them get into like the proper macro scale thing where you have just the giant harvester that's like, this is a city block moving around. Yeah, those mining dumpers are insane. Oh yeah, it's just beyond ridiculous. You've seen those in person? They have to shut down part of where you live to move stuff through. Yeah, no, that's you look at the scale of those things and how large they are. And so they'll have like the person who's actually steering it, but they'll have like a crew that'll be like on the corners of those kind of massive trucks that literally their job is just to be like, yep, there's nothing over here in my corner, you're good, keep going. Because it's just so big. You can't see what you can't see, so it's just too dangerous to not have spotters. And then sometimes the spotters will be on the ground with like little flags or whatever. But yeah. Haul trucks are funny because the proportions don't change between, it's a bit bigger than a normal truck, the largest vehicle on the planet. You can't tell till you see a human in the photo. Oh yeah, no, it's literally like just someone just went into like Photoshop, they took a picture of like a regular dump truck, just kind of grabbed the corners and stretched. Wise words I've heard many times before. You can try. Yup. Well, that was the largest vehicle I've personally gotten to see up close and personal, like get to climb on board and all that, was the crawler over at the Kennedy Space Center, which is spotters is mostly a commissioning thing. They all claim cameras or geofencing will do the same role in 6 months, after 6 months or so. Narrator note, they can't. Cars get run over, etc. Yeah, so like the largest vehicle I've personally gotten to not work on or something like that, like it wasn't my job, but I worked out the Space Center, so I got to see a lot of stuff, was the crawler for the space shuttle. So for those who don't know, we had the space shuttle program here in the US that, you know, very famously they'd load up a satellite. It kind of was like someone glued a plane to a rocket, a very bad plane that is like, it's good for its specialty, but as a plane is terrible because it needs to be going like several hundred miles per hour or it kind of just falls. It's aerodynamic if you're going real fast, but there's a reason why when it comes to landing the shuttle, you get one shot to land it. If you overshot, congratulations, you're landing in the ocean. Here's a hint, don't do that. Thank you for the follow, welcome to the stream, which never happened in the entire time of the program. But like, they very, very make sure you land on your first go. Because like, I think it was what was like most planes, it's 10 feet forward for it's 10 feet forward for 1 foot down, and then the space shuttle was 10 feet down for 1 foot forward. I like normal cruising speeds. So we're like, yeah, this sucker comes down and it comes down fast. Never happened that they released. No, it never happened. Like I said, I literally worked out there. We only had so many space shuttles. We could account for all of them. It was a very small number. And trust me, if one of them would have come down hard, you would have known. The Rena's shuttle pack, the alternate runway was Christchurch, New Zealand, one of the world's longest runways in a tiny city. Yep. Yeah, they had a runway in Houston, they had a runway in Florida at the Kennedy Space Center, they had a runway in New Zealand, and there was I thought there was two more. I think there was one in California. And I want to say there was one, I can't remember if it was South America, or sorry, not South America, Africa or whatever. Basically they had them, like, the entire circumference of the planet. That way, like, if you're coming down and you realize you blew it, you know, you can shift on to the next one. For the most part, they almost exclusively landed in Houston and Florida. I think once in a while they went down in Cali, but I'm not confident on that one. But it was usually Houston and Florida, depending on weather and all that stuff. Spain was the final? Gotcha. That's what I was trying to remember which was the last one, because I don't think they ever landed over there. I don't think they ever landed in New Zealand, but it was on the list, you know, in case you know, someone pushed the oh crap button. It's like, oh crap, like we're not making it to Cali. All right, well, what's the next stop? New Zealand. All right, let's make it happen. But yeah, no, it's just the crawler would go out there and they would drive it into the VAB building, the vehicle assembly building. They would put the two, like the giant fuel tank, the two boosters, and like the shuttle. They'd attach that all on there, put it on there, and then the crawler would drive out to the launch pad. And they just put it on the launch pad and it'd drive away. And that thing was massive. I can't remember. It was something like each cleat on the treads was 20 tons or something like that. New Zealand was different than the rest because they intended it might be used for planned missions. They just never did. Gotcha. But yeah, so each cleat on the treads was something like 20 tons. And then that's not counting like any of the girdering and framing. And then one of the other interesting things is the driver's seat was off the side of it, like way off to one side. And then you had like these little observation areas and you'd have people walk around with the flags guiding it. Because where it was at, they actually dug up the ground and they compressed gravel going. It's something like 20, 30 feet deep or something like that. So it could support the weight of the crawler driving on it. It was so heavy, you know, and that's with the shuttle and everything. And I wanted to say its top speed going out was, I think, 1 mile an hour. Was its under load top speed. And then its returning speed was 2 miles an hour without the load, you know, the full load. And that's it going full speed. Dude, you got thrown by a 40-ton vehicle. You can't imagine anyone being tapped by something that massive, the crawler surviving. Just the cleat is 20 tons. Oh yeah, no, if it hits you, you're dead. Like, there's nothing to say. If it hits you, there's just too much mass. your dead or whatever hit is gone. Which I don't believe ever happened, luckily, because the good news is it's moving 1 mile an hour. It's not getting anywhere fast. So, if you get hit by it, you kind of messed up for an extended period of time. Okay. It's a real life game of running from the snail, yeah. But it's an interestingly, like, massive vehicle. Did you not turn on? Come on, man. Hey, the follow. Welcome to stream. Humans are either super fragile or super resilient. There's no in between. Generally speaking, humans tend to fare more on the fragile than the resilient, in all honesty. A lot of people like to feel otherwise, but very genuinely, we squishy, we soft. we are not the sturdiest thing in the room. We've got good endurance in regards to running. Just being able to run at a decent speed for a very long time. But we're not particularly durable or resilient things. Those things where we're surprisingly easy to kill for how hard we are to kill, you know? Yeah. Well, that's the thing. We're not resilient because of like our own sturdiness and tenacity and those kind of things. That we don't offer actually that much. There's certainly things that are not as strong. Oh, literally that's a stop sign. There's certainly things that are less resilient than us, but all things considered, we're pretty yeah, that's the thing. Our resilience is more around like intelligence, resourcefulness, opposable thumbs, that kind of thing. So it's not resilience as in our bodies are strong. It's our resilience in that, you know, all the other things. I should just dealt with it. Okay, let's just reposition. Not trying to even be fancy. Alright. So that's interesting. That I had to go through and like regenerate that. That's fine. There's just the things that some people are just too stubborn to die. Yeah, but it's kind of one of those things that like they're resilient for people. But there's definitely ones that, you know, for people they're resilient. But then you compare them against a lot of other things outside of human beings, and they just really don't kind of hold up. And there certainly are people who, like, you look at their choices in life and their behaviors, and you're like, how are you not dead? It's like you drive around recklessly everywhere you go. You literally eat salt directly from the shaker. Like, you haven't exercised a day in your life. How are you not dead? There's a difference between minor injury and death is surprisingly little, hence the amazing unharmed spread. Oh yeah, no, that's a thing. Like, for as much as we like to think of ourselves as tenacious and all that kind of stuff, like, really, really it doesn't take all that much. Yeah, those kind of folks are just built different, I suppose. There are some times that there are just, it's kind of the same way that some people just get really unlucky, that they draw the bad card, that even though they did everything right in their life, they ate healthy, they exercised, they got good sleep, they did those things, and just, you know, they get the bad luck of the draw and they get hit with some, you know, some awful disease or whatever, and they don't make it. There is the opposite of the people who do everything wrong and by just some stroke of luck just drew the right card, that they just kind of didn't, they just didn't die, that there was some ridiculous combination of luck that keeps them moving forward. And, you know, good for them. In all things, good for them. Yep. Yeah, now for the record, and this is a normal thing you're going to see on Twitch, basically there's two ways that, there's like kind of two strategies that content creators have for advertisements. Generally we have our choice between pre-rolls and mid-rolls, and you can say, well, you should turn them off. That's not a thing. Like, literally the moment we hit affiliate, the off button is gone. It just doesn't exist. There's not an off button to click. It's non-existent. There is no ads. What we do get to choose is pre-rolls or mid-rolls. Pre-rolls are when you click on the stream before you see a single second of content, you get slapped with a bunch of ads. And that's one option. That's the option. If I do literally nothing, that's what you get. Now, the other option is what's known as mid-rolls. And so mid-rolls, what happens is, if I do mid-rolls, it disables the pre-roll ads, but it requires me to play 3 minutes of ads per hour. And I can split them up in however what way I want. I can have 3 minutes per hour. I can have, you know, a minute and 30 seconds per half hour. I can have 45 seconds per 15 minutes. You get the idea, as long as it adds up to 3 minutes per hour. I think the last time you were on Twitch was before those changes got rolled out. I'm trying to think of how long ago that... It's been a long time that the ads have been here. It used to be that people would just stick with the pre-rolls, but we're getting more and more and more meaningful data that is showing that, generally speaking, your channels perform better on viewership with mid-rolls versus pre-rolls, which sounds counterintuitive because mid-rolls mean you're ultimately seeing more ads. But there's a catch. And one of the reasons why I personally believe mid-rolls result in better viewership than pre-rolls is, imagine you're going to a restaurant and they don't let you see the menu, they don't let you see anything else, you just see the name of the restaurant, and they say, okay, you have to wait 15 minutes before we'll let you in. And so you have no idea if they're good, bad, or otherwise. You have no idea whatsoever. But you gotta wait 15 minutes before you can go in to see if it's any good. Meanwhile, you have another restaurant that you go in, they let you sit at the bar, and you sit there, you get a little sampler of what they've got there, you get a drink, and they say, okay, well, the table's gonna be 30 minutes. You can sit here, you can try these things, but then, you know, you gotta wait 30 minutes before you can actually sit down for your meal. So one of those two, you at least got a taste of what you're ultimately going to get. And even though you're objectively spending more time, you know, waiting, you would go, okay, but that sampler was good. I want more of that. I'm willing to wait to get more of that. And there's going to be people who say, I'm not willing to wait, and that's totally fine. But that's kind of the thought, is that if you do go in where you have no idea if you're going to enjoy the content, you're going to bounce. And I've had a lot of people say that, yeah, if they get hit ads with, like, when they join on the channel, they get hit ads, they don't know it, they leave. And that's been my experience from what I've seen from my own viewership, is I did the trade back and forth trying the pre-rolls and the mid-rolls Like, it's something like 15, 16 times I tried it switching back and forth, like A/B testing, as best I could. Which it wasn't a clean test. There's no such thing as a clean test on Twitch because there's too many variables you can't control for. And every single instance I test, 100%, which never happens in normal testing, 100% of the times I tested, I had better viewership with mid-rolls than pre-rolls. And that's viewership, that's not ad revenue, so it's not even about the money, it's about people hanging out and watching. Said, having seen people who like to crash 2 junk cars head-to-head on Sunday for a laugh, then turn up to work Monday like nothing happened, and others go out of bed wrong, get out of bed wrong and limp for a week. Yup. Hey, Snoot, how's it going? For those who don't know Snoot TV, if I can get a shout out for them, they're another fantastic content creator on the platform. Been playing a lot of RimWorld lately, so definitely worth checking out their channel and see what they got going on over there, because they do some very solid content. Going good? Love hearing the comments on ads. That comes up so much of the subreddit, doesn't it? Oh my god. I've said this before. I kind of low-key wish the Twitch subreddit would have like the master I want to whine about ads post, and then just say anyone else who does it, we're just gonna delete the post. Because it's one of those things, it's like, yes, you want to make sure people have a place they can voice their grievances, but my god, it's like every 3rd or 4th post on there. It makes it so you can't find anything worth meaning half of it. And then it's also one of those things that, like, you see and people are like, oh, that's just a content creator just jacking up the number of things to get that sweet ad revenue, and you're like, look, man, I'm a level with you. Like, don't get me wrong. I want to be clear. The ad revenue is not nothing. Like, just very genuinely, when I have times that subs are slow, that ad revenue can get to almost half of my revenue. That's not why I run the ads the way I do. I'm all caring about the viewership. I care about watching big number get bigger on my channel, because that's going to afford me way more opportunities than getting a couple of nickels more out of getting some more ads in your face. And it's just kind of one of those things. It's pretty sad that even Twitch's official help articles are out of date, and some of them are straight up wrong. Yeah. They do have a sweep of general posts, so they get deleted, but you still have way too many of them. Yeah. Your favorite post of the one? I haven't seen that one. I've been streaming for, a month to 3CCCV with ads on, and I've made 2 cents. Because an ad impression is worth, like, 1/10 of a penny. Like, unless you got thousands of people tuning in, it's not a whole lot of money. Like, and for the record, this channel, while I have, 80 to 100 or whatever people tune in every night, that does equate to thousands of people. Like, very genuinely, in a given day, I will have, a number of 100 to 1,000 unique viewers tuned into the channel. I'm curious what you're doing here, Sprayer. You seem to be having difficulty. And like I said, it ends up being like a considerable amount. It's enough that I would not be able to continue doing full-time content creation if it was not for the ad revenue. So, like, I don't want to lie and be like, no. Like, don't get me wrong, it used to be terrible. Like before they did the ad incentive thing, it was like, oh, here's your change, get out of my face. Like, it really was a nothing burger back then. And it got really good right when they introduced that. And that, like, at no point have I ever run more ads than the minimum required. Yeah, there's like a handful of nickels tossed at your feet. Go pick them up. By the way, everyone around you is now angry because you made them go through this. And by made them, we made you do it. But, like, we ultimately pretended like it was your decision. It's just, you can make that decision. There's just an or else, your growth is going to suck because all these things. But, then they did the ad incentive program for like 30 seconds. The payouts were good. Like, right when they introduced that, suddenly the ad revenue became like half or more of my revenue. and then like months later it just dropped right back down. Like it's better than it was, to be fair. Let's see, if we were in high school, the ad revenue would be a video game per month. Maybe as an adult, it's barely a dinner out. Yeah. You're not aware of the ad incentive? So, I always do this, and I do apologize. You're not partnered yet, Snoot, correct? Like it's okay if you don't want to like talk about it or whatever. You are not. I didn't think so. Yeah, so the ad incentive program, I can't remember if that's partners only. I thought it opened up to affiliates as well. But yeah, it's just when you run the ads manually, it's basically the thing saying, hey, here's where you get like this % cut of the ad revenue. Like, and they've got like a whole thing around it, but that's basically what it boils down to, is just, hey, you're getting your cut of the ad revenue. But it only applies with mid-rolls. Well, yeah, mid-rolls, whether they're run manually or automatically. I think you might have to run them automatically for it to go, but it gives you a better cut. Because Twitch wants you to run the ads and not forget them, because Twitch really wants you to run the ads. Twitch really wants you to run the ads. Twitch says, I want that sweet, sweet ad revenue money. Yeah, well, I mean, and you get it from the platform standpoint. If you are a viewer who is watching a stream and you are not subbing or buying bits, then as far as Twitch is concerned, you are an expense. Because they're not making revenue off of you, and you are costing them something. So the ad revenue is how they fill that gap. And this isn't me, like, again, being like, oh, ads are great or whatever. But that is how Twitch makes its money. If they take that away, congratulations, Twitch goes away. That's the unfortunate reality of the business. They gotta make Daddy Bezos real happy, make those shareholders smile, or they stop existing. Doesn't mean I gotta like it, but that is the nature of the beast. They are a business at the end of the day. But also, ad revenue depends considerably on category, hence why they're worried about people in the wrong category chatting that. Yes, so for those who don't know things behind the scenes, and this isn't stuff that me as creator deals with, this is stuff between Twitch and its ad partners, is they'll have some agreement. I don't know the details on how they'll be, so like this is just me using it as an example from someone who used to work at a company who would buy ad space. And for those who are like, but ads don't work. You are wrong. Oh my god, you could not be more wrong. That sales floor in that building would be dead, and we would run an ad with Google AdSense, and the phones, we would be losing people because we couldn't handle the traffic. It was terrifying how incredibly effective ads are. Like, very genuinely, I hate it that they're that effective. We did see this, right? Okay. For some reason, I thought we cultivated and then immediately spread. Now, don't get me wrong. You might go, oh, well, it doesn't get me. That's fine. The point is, it doesn't matter if it gets you. If I throw that ad out and I show it to a couple hundred people, or not 100 people, you put out there's several 100,000 impressions, and that results in several thousand customers, which is probably not a realistic conversion rate. But you get the idea of where I'm going with this. If I throw it out there, I spend $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000 on getting it out there, and I get a couple $1 million in business out of it. Do that every day. So I hate that it's so effective, but it's real dang effective. It's real dang effective. But what they'll do, though, is when it comes to your ads and all that, you say, hey, I'm trying to advertise timeshares. So I want to target people who are thinking about vacations or might be overworked or are probably of an age range of somewhere into the mid-30s to potentially the late 40s. Like, that's my target demographic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, the game categories I want to be is I want to be in these logistics games. That these logistics and tycoon games are really popular with this demographic. And simulation. Someone who wants to experience living a different life? Probably someone who wants to go on vacation. What about people playing games that are based around tropical paradises, like The Sims? Maybe that aligns with my target demographic. I have no idea if these do align with any target demographics, but you get the idea. They're like, I see this place and I think my potential customers are over there, and that kind of thing. Versus, you're probably not turning around and going to Call of Duty, because I'm willing to bet that the age range on Call of Duty and the expected financial situations of people in Call of Duty is probably not their target demographic. I could be entirely wrong. They've done studies. I have not. But you get the idea. It matters. And they also will care about your geolocation. So, obviously, if I'm a place who's selling and I operate in the United States, I'm probably targeting customers in the United States. The average Call of Duty age is 28, then yeah, that's too young. For timeshares, they're not targeting you. They'll certainly take you if you decide, but usually when you're aiming with timeshares, I know this because I actually worked at a group who we I won't give too much details. Basically, if you know how timeshares have a really scummy reputation, we were the people who came in after you got screwed by some timeshare and go, all right, what can we do to fix this for you? So we had a lot of lawyers who were ready to look for any holes in your paperwork to get you out of it. And sometimes the answer was, hey, that timeshare you got, it's going up on eBay for $1. And I'd be like, but I spent so much. And it's like, yep, and you're going to save more money by selling this for $1 than keeping it. Because you can't sell it, it's worthless. And they're going to charge you every single year through the nose for tens of thousands of dollars to keep it. Just get rid of it. You know, make sure it's on the up and up, that you let the next person know, hey, here's the cost and everything. Like, don't just make another victim. But it's like, hey, you know what? That might be the right location for that people, that it makes sense for them to do it. And those lawyers got a lot of work. But yeah, we would clean all of that kind of stuff. But the target demographic for timeshares is usually in the younger 30s to like mid to older 40s. Some of them, for some locations, would aim higher to like your 50s and all that. But they're aiming for that range where you probably have gotten your career there's a good chance you got your career properly started. You're not in your entry level job. You've gotten to your second or third role. You haven't got like your retirements lined up necessarily. You may or may not be buying a house or have already bought a house. You're kind of in that range where you probably got some money to throw around. If they can convince you to spend that money on a vacation situation, they can make money. Because the only 20% are under 21. So it's older than most think, but also not enough for investors. What exactly is a timeshare for a non-US person? So timeshares exist outside the US. They exist worldwide. So if you think about it like this, you would buy, say for example, a condo. And that is a physical location that you own, like an apartment that you go, but you own it. Now, with a timeshare that works is that's kind of like a condo, but you don't want it all the time. So what typically happens is just say, hey, you know what? I like Hawaii. I will buy a timeshare in Hawaii. And so what happens is for 1 week or whatever the timeshare's for, I have a space that is mine in Hawaii. Next week, it's somebody else's. So it's kind of like something between a condo and a hotel room that you have temporary control over. And there are, like, for the record, there are actually good timeshares out there. There are not many. Most of them are garbage. Most of them are bad. Most of them, you're getting conned and scammed and that. But there are good ones. Like, a lot of the Disney timeshares are actually legitimately decent. You can resell them and make money. They're commonly used. All that. Let's see. Timeshares are super common for boats here. 5 to 20 people own a boat. A company collects the money to manage it, and you book it for rental. Yeah, that would make sense. But right, so there is definitely ones that are on the up and up, but it is one of those industries that has a lot of scams and racketing and all that kind of stuff going on, where there's lots and lots of shady things that happen. It's got a very bad reputation that it's earned for doing all sorts of really not okay things. I'm really curious what you're doing in this moment. Oh, you're setting up. I understand now. Yeah, most owners will book it once every 2 years. Yeah, it's about the same with a lot of timeshares. You'll get the space. It's available to you for you every year. You just have to say, hey, I want my weekend this weekend or whatever. But generally speaking, they usually won't book it every year. It's also one of those things that you have to be someone who wants to have the same vacation kind of again and again. So, like, that's the reasons why the Disney ones do really well. There are people who live, breathe, and die Disney. They just really like their Disney princesses. So it makes sense for them. And for the record, it can be the cruise boats as well. That said, there's also timeshares that'll be something like you will have a hotel chain that has, locations all over the world, and you can buy a slot, and it's not in the hotel in Hawaii that you can say, I would like to reserve the space in Singapore. I'd like to, reserve a space in Hawaii. You can move it around. You just get your 1 week or whatever the terms are. You get your 1 week and you just put it anywhere they operate. Within things, you got to reserve it and do a whole bunch of stuff. But usually that's not that big a deal. And this isn't me trying to sell you on timeshares. If I give you any recommendation, don't freaking buy one. It's not a good investment 99% of the time. Most of the time, they're terrible. Here's a fun fact. If you have a timeshare, usually the way it works is you have your dues annually, and they can be tens of thousands of dollars. So if you file bankruptcy, first of all, you can't discard the timeshare. You can't say, I revoke my ownership of it. That's not a thing. You still own it. It's on paper. It's in your name. You are going to be charged those tens of thousands of dollars every single year, no matter what you do with it. You have to get rid of it, which usually means getting someone else to buy it from you. Sometimes they have particularly egregious contracts that require you to, pay out the building that you own the timeshare from, to pay them some multiple year amount up front to get rid of it. Sometimes they will also even have it where to sell it to someone else, you have to pay a tens of thousands of dollars surcharge. And to be clear, some of these in some states and countries, those are illegal practices that obviously they won't do because they're illegal there. But you get the idea. They do some shady stuff. But if you file bankruptcy, that you're like, this timeshare is killing me, I'm horrifically in debt, I'm filing bankruptcy, I'm dissolving my house, I am doing everything, I'm basically saying, clean slate, take my stuff, I just want out from underneath this. You don't lose access to the timeshare, and guess what happens? You still get your dues the next year for tens of thousands of dollars. It wipes out the debt you already had, but you go right back to accruing it the next time. So, unless you are 100%, 1000% absolutely positive it's something you want and it makes sense and you vetted it, the answer is don't do it. Because for every good one, there's at least 9 bad ones. As a rule, never buy a timeshare outside your local government area. Makes consumer rights super hard. I don't know one way or the other on that one. It sounds plausible. I don't know one or the other. The lawyers did with the lawyering thing. I just wrote software. You hate sharing, you don't like people, and you don't like doing the same thing twice. A timeshare is not for you. Yeah, timeshare, it takes a very... So again, you have ones where it can be based on, the hotel chain, so anywhere they operate is fine. And usually those are places that they have a presence fairly globally. Those ones can make sense for a lot of people, and those tend to be the up and up ones. And also the major companies, again, like Disney or Universal or those tend to be relatively safe anyways, as long as you are down for that specific experience. But outside those, it gets real dodgy. Like I said, we did good business just going in and being like, all right, you got this crap. How do we get rid of it? And sometimes it's just, hey, you know what your best way to get rid of this is? To spend $20,000 to make them go away. Which, of course, no one is happy to hear, but you're like, yeah, we looked at it, man. These terms you got yourself into are ironclad. You know, and usually in those cases, we didn't take basically, like, we took like a consulting fee that was pretty close to nothing. It was just basically enough to not completely eat a loss. But it's like, yeah, you're just stuck, man. Like, they got you good. Most of them were not that good. Most of them had holes that you could poke at them, and if you couldn't get them out, you could get them to settle to be like, hey, if we give you $1,000, will you let this person out? Yeah? Okay, cool. All right, person, it's $1,000 to get out of it. Let's see, your manager went on vacation to Idaho with her family for a timeshare situation because her husband is the director level of his company, and apparently that level and over gets access to this company-owned house for periods of time. Yeah. And like I said, that's the thing. There are such things as good timeshares. It's just, you know, there's not many. Taxi cabs, courier vans are common but horrible timeshares. Because when it breaks down, it totally screws somebody or everybody. Yeah. Alright, so we have got you all situated. Everything has been herbicide, fertilized, cultivated, and seeded. So those two fields knocked out. But yeah, no, it's definitely one of those things that, like, unless you go, like, and they use very high-pressure sales tactics. They use stuff that is ultimately not allowed, but they can get away with. So we have a rule here in Florida that basically, unless you're being detained, you cannot be told you're not allowed to leave. They cannot lock the doors to disallow you to leave. In the state, that's referred to as false imprisonment. That the idea is you are effectively being kidnapped as far as the law is concerned. And there's a lot more nuance. I'm oversimplifying it to the point of inaccuracy. But there is a lot of protections, and a lot of those came specifically because of practices that timeshares were doing, the salesmen. That you'd go to this place, they'd be like, hey, if you come by, we'll give you free movie tickets, or hey, if you come by, we'll get you a free cruise, or whatever thing, or hey, if you go on this cruise, we'll do this. And what happens is you gotta sit into the session to get your free thing. And so they take you down this long maze of hallways to the very back, they sit you in a room at a table, and they start, you know, doing their spiel. And you'd be like, I don't want it. Okay. And then leave the room. You have no idea how to get the way back. They say, wait here. Like, you know, we need to do this thing. And then they'd come back and they'd try and, you know, pitch you again. And then they'd walk away. And then try and pitch you again. And then walk away. You have no idea how the heck to get out of this place. And to say, hey, we can't have you wandering around. Like, this is an area that you're not allowed to walk around or whatever without an escort or whatever. And basically, they're keeping you trapped back there. And the idea is they want to get you to the point that you're willing to just sign anything to get out of the situation. And they'll make their pitch and they'll try their best to, like, just do a regular sale or whatever. But it's, you know, it's a con, it's a scam. And you either eventually capitulate or sooner or later they will give up. Hi. You're going to Sleepy Sleeps? You sound like you need to go to Sleepy Sleeps. You do fall asleep sleeps at your desk sometimes.
Yeah. But now I've got sleepy sleeps in that bed to find.
That is where the sleepy sleeps tends to happen. I love you too, you sleep well. Alright, so we harvest... I can't be something I'm not. So we harvest the wheat in July. But yeah, so it's one of those things that basically what they do is they would effectively almost hold you captive You know, until either you escalated it to a point that they're like, all right, this person is like dangerous liability, whatever you want to go. It's like, you know, okay, this person is, you know, clearly they're not going to go with it. And on top of it, they're now making it a problem. And to do all sorts of stuff to hit that point. But yeah, so they got a whole bunch of stuff where now if they try to do that, a person knows what they're doing. They'll be like, you know, hey, like, you know, I would like to leave, and I'm going to ask you to let me out. Because if you don't, I'm going to hold you for false imprisonment. And so they don't do a lot of those tactics anymore. At the same time, they also don't do the thing where you get to go on a cruise boat and you just got to sit through their talk or whatever. Because again, that's the whole idea, is they would get you in these places where they can do these high-pressure sales tactics, where they borderline hold you captive or whatever. And another thing that happened was that was one of the ways we would get people out of their timeshares, is when they would describe the circumstances at which they, you know, signed up for it, that we were able to go, oh no, this person couldn't legally make this agreement. They couldn't legally consent to it because they were under duress. Like they were effectively being held against their will, and it wasn't on an even thing. So this contract is null and void. Like, you know, the circumstances of which this were signed were not okay, appropriate, or acceptable. And we got a lot of those thrown out with that. I didn't mean to kick that out, but we did. There is nothing on sale today. Well, I guess I will not be buying anything on sale today. And it was July was my harvesting everything. So yeah, July is the harvesting. Yeah, because we don't have barley. So it's just advance the next day. We've already got these fields sorted. The police also occasionally do stings on that as well, is they'll get people into those situations, and they will, you know, basically ask to leave, and if the person deliberately prevents them from leaving and all that, they'll go after the organization. Breaks trunks into wood chips, not what I need. All right. Yeah, I still need to make some kind of adjustment of these greenhouses for this. It's a shame I don't think I could just pick it up and rotate them. Because if I turn them the other way where I could just drive along the line, it'd be a lot easier. Ultimately, it might be I have to sell them entirely and then buy them again someplace else, which would be fine. Because they're not super expensive, they're 10,000 each. Alright. Because I just need to relocate him so I'm not driving the semi over the hill. Sometimes it gets stuck on this ridge. Like, not bad stuck, like you can kind of wiggle it and get it back down, but clearly not what I want. All right. So next in-game month, we will be harvesting our wheat, I believe. And that's what I gotta decide. I'm waiting to catch a tractor on sale. Am I going to just commit and buy the giant crop trailer for the semi-truck? Which would be another major upgrade. Or, honestly, the right decision is to probably just sit on it for right now. And just wait for the sale to come up, one way or the other. Otherwise, just save up and get a little bit more. But one, to expand the thing, I've been trying to have it so now that we're making enough money that literally every single stream I do something so far as progression of equipment, whether it's buy like another plot of land to get our field going, or I upgrade a piece of equipment. Because we're making enough money, that's a totally realistic thing to just have tangible progress every single stream. Okay, so we've got all that. Okay, so time for another busy day because it's harvest day. Yep, so we got all our nice fields out there. Okay, so let's check. That's not anything I care about. Oh, right. Harvest what exactly? Wheat. I'm gonna harvest all the wheats. Alright, so we gotta do this whole nonsense again. Not sure about the canola. I think the canola is later. Here we go. So create job. Alright, I was hoping. No, wait, don't do that. Don't do that. I was going to try. I'm trying to get it to let me do the thing, but I got to be on the field for it to let me do that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and like run it the old-fashioned way. All right, so we gave that to the AI. You get the bread. Alright, so I gotta make that decision I've been putting off now about whether or not I'm, you know, going to buy the trailer for the, for picking up the harvest. Because that would free up my other tractors to work on the other stuff as the harvester gets done. And then have my semi do more and more of just moving stuff, because it's got the horsepower and the speed. Alright, so if I were to buy the semi-trailer, let's go here to trucks, to you, combinations. So if we go way over here, that's the one we got for the pallets. Transports animal, transports liquids, transports bales. Okay, so that's the tipper trailer. That one has 43.8, 75.6. I mean, I think that'll be our purchase today. That's the double? Yes, it is. All right, well, we're doing it. I want to have at least one new thing for the stream, and that's what we're doing. Because that should mean I can have this deal with that. And that should be good news. So that cost me 138,000. That's basically not quite a full harvest. But that's kind of where we're at in the game is every harvest I'm kind of getting one new piece of equipment or one new section of land or whatever. You know, that also means that the very next in-game month, we're going to have the tractor come up, by the way. Just in case you're wondering. That's just how it works. I say, do you know of a belt system that will overload directly into a BGA bunker silo output? Yeah, unfortunately, I do not. I haven't done much of it. All right, so let's go ahead and get this in place. All right. And timing-wise, so we're going to pull up the wheat today. And then we'll also pull up the canola today. So we're doing the wheat and the canola today. We replant the canola tomorrow, and then we replant the wheat the next day. And we pull up the sorghum in between. Yeah, and admittedly, I just haven't messed with the belt systems very much. All right. One thing you can do in the meantime while that fills up is we can go to the stuff I own. Where are you at? I need to be looking here. Go here. Go to the trailer. I wonder if you could line up a bunch of these. And sell that trailer. Okay. Entering it seems to have compartments. Yeah. All right. Out of interest, why no straw bales? Not putting in the time. I would need to make it worth my while, I would need to take the time to get the windrower again. Or that. I was doing the straw bales for a while, and they would fetch me about 10-ish thousand a year, which is definitely not anything to be upset about. But, just the time it took me to pick them up, do all the work with them and everything, to get that, like, 10-12,000. When I need, like, I can't remember what it was. Something I was going to, I think it was, like, the really big harvester. I needed just a little bit more money, so I had to sell something I was using, so I sold the stuff I needed for the bales. But yeah, so like the wheat fields here were only making me an extra like 10,000, which is decent, like don't get me wrong. But it was a lot of labor to get that 10,000. Alright, meanwhile, we can take you real fast. Yep, no, that was the thing. It was kind of one of those things that I had a really good harvester on sale, and I had to do what I had to do to be able to make it so I could actually afford it. And that meant, unfortunately, selling it cheap. Alright, so you can go here, choose you. And we're not going to start it yet because it'll go through that wheat, and we definitely don't want that. It's fine, I'll deal with that in a minute. Alright. I think the really interesting thing with this one is I'm curious how dumping is going to work from this. You can overload as well as normal with it. Yeah, no, it's the fact that it's technically 2 trailers. It also makes me curious if I could buy a second lead trailer and that would work. I don't think it will. Like, if I'm able to daisy chain like 3, 4 of these. I don't think it will. I think it is restricted to just the 2. Can't be that 75? Yeah, that was the whole reason I looked at it. I was like, okay. Such the same as a crop only trailer. You'd use it for silage. Note to self. Making the turns too tight makes it real sad. Oh, come on, cruise control, don't fight me. So that's curious. I've got 2 gauges on there, and just the top one's filling up. Oh, I bet you it would let me have 2 different crops in here. That I could have like the front half be one crop and the back half be the other crop or whatever. If I wanted. They do 4 here, but it's not common internationally. Lots of 2 trailers do offer more than 73 meters cubed, though. Gotcha. Come on, get over there. I was hoping to get... Yeah, so this is the one I actually want to get to play nice with me. I'm gonna go and harvest just a tiny little bit. Oh, here we go. There we go, that's what I want to do. So generate... Because this is the field I really want the course play and that working on. Is just because these are the fields that I've got too many obstacles nearby that are a problem. Great job. What are you doing? Why would you fold it up? And where are you going, by the way? I think you're going to the wrong field is what I think you're doing. Let's try this again. Need to straighten it out and get around the light poles I placed. Alright, so let's try this again. So escape. Grab you, create job, let's scoot you over here, because like target is not on a field. Yes, it's putting the target board down there, looks like. Alright, let's start that. Okay. So we're still figuring that out. Oh yeah, and before we forget, great job. Oh, that's interesting. So when I hand it over to them, it automatically turned on dropping the straw, which doesn't really matter that much to me. But it is interesting that it's like, no, 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 you definitely wanted the straw. You know a guy who drove the road trains? I told you if you ever see one coming up behind you on dirt roads, get off the road entirely and let them pass. I imagine they do not stop easily. I am impressed that that entire field over there didn't quite fill this up. Just shovel the whole thing in there or nothing. It's more about the dust. Dust is solid 5 minutes before you can see. And the real trailer is fishtailing around in there somewhere. Yeah. I didn't see that. Alright. So, the next thing to potentially consider is we could also consider getting a windrower and a baler and all that later. I wasn't expecting you to cut that corner, just not clean it up. It's probably fine. Oh, come on. Okay. It is a curiosity that, like, it's just gonna, like, miss the edges here. Which is a little bit of a bummer. Yeah, we'll have to clean up after it. Alright. That is a lot of wheat. Say, I really wish you wouldn't miss every corner. Oh, I see. You're gonna do it that way. That's fine. I'm honestly just curious like how much of these fields I can cram into this thing before it's actually full, because we're about 3/4 full. We finished one giant field, and we're probably around halfway through this field. Yeah, I gotta watch those turns. It likes to grab and just whip the whole thing around. Alright, so we just gotta go ahead and have them get down here. And meanwhile, I've already got the other one cultivating the next field. Getting that all ready for planting in a couple of days. So it's the harvester here is our bottleneck. Okay. Yeah, notice what's happening here is it goes to shift gears. And then when it shift gears, that's when things get all out of whack so far as the truck here. That I lose my positioning real easy. Alright. Now, if we did make our fields way bigger, so instead of the fields I've got here, like I ended up, you know, buying that land down there and just like quintupling the size of that field. That would make this a lot more efficient as well, because then that'd be going just in a row and we could just kind of just grab it all. I also imagine the sheer amount of wheat we're dragging along with us right now. I can only assume 64,000 liters of wheat is a significant amount of weight to be moving around. Would the AI be able to run the truck if you made the field huge? I don't know. I don't know if the AI would be smart enough to position it. I haven't actually done much in the way of having the AI handle, like, I haven't driven the harvester and then made the AI collect from me. I don't know if it even does it at all, if it does it well, or anything like that. Alright. And then once we get this set up, that's going to get our wheat production back online. So that'll be good news. Okay. I wonder if the harvester has the capacity to complete the last fields. It'd be close. I'm just kind of impressed that so far this thing has managed to hold what's going to be 2 whole fields in it. Like, this trailer's just got 2 whole fields in it. And still has some room left. It's gonna have like 5%, you know, space left on it. Alright, so a couple more little areas. We're just going to touch up these corners of the fields it missed. Because why not? Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what we could do with the baler and all that. All right. So we can go ahead and get you set up. All right, so you can go here. Great job. Do that. We'll do sharp corners on it. Alright, and with this I'm not going to try and shove another building in there. Or another field in there, because this thing's getting a little pokey with how much wheat I got in here. Which is a little understandable considering we're at just about 71,000 liters worth of wheat. Which I can only assume weighs a proverbial S-ton. But that's fine. We can drop this off and see how this goes. The tractor's about to finish cultivating that field, which is fine. So it looked like there was like vents to drop off what's in the trailers on the bottom, so you just pull over whatever you're looking at. Oh, right. Because I understand. I understand. It is going to make the warehouse positioning suck. So I've got 4 different like spigots on the bottom of this. And it's where those spigots are positioned, which makes sense. I already had figured that. That's not the right button. But I'm not entirely sure. Okay. I don't really know how to empty the back ones. That's what I'm running into is I can open the front one and the back one, but getting the back port on them to open, I'm not seeing a different button for it, nor was I getting the prompt for it. Tip side. I see. Alright. So I am on the back one. Keep pushing all the wrong buttons, don't mind me. Alright, so that's gonna mess with me for a little bit. Alright, so let's go ahead and get you back over here. Yes, that one's a little tricky because it's got 4 separate compartments I gotta juggle with, and it's just gonna take me a little bit to get used to, like, okay, this button's to set this compartment, yada yada yada. We'll get there. But, okay, so create job. Open and close the generating. Yep, that's fine. And create job and start job. Oh, you want to go the other way? Okay, that's weird. I didn't catch that it wanted to be... I thought it was weird that the arrow was pointing that way. That's fine. So I get it. So just the way the pattern's going is it wants me to start here and go that way. Not really worried about it, one or the other. So create job, start job. All right. Alright, so what I need to figure out is about moving stuff. We go to construction. Gotta remember what it was. Yeah, no, actually, I think it was construction. So I think it was... You just have to sell it and put a new one down. Boo. Yeah, don't worry about then. Not for right now. It'd be a good thing to fix later, but honestly, I don't want to deal with that right now. Just make sure it's empty. Yeah, no, I'm not going to worry about selling it for all that right now. It'll be something we'll figure out. I'll likely relocate stuff, because right now I don't want, like, I'm going to take a pretty big loss if I sell it. And to be honest, just cheat the money to compensate for the movement cost. I'm not worried about that. What's the gain location? Yeah, I'm not worried about one or the other, honestly. Like, I can move it later, because the problem is either move it back, which point it intrudes on this field even more. So I can worry about that when I get there. Would you mind getting to speed, please? That's fine. All right. Stop stuttering and just go. It's fine. I wonder what difference it makes, like, if you just have it, like, swath out the straw all over the ground, or, like, make it in little piles, if you're just gonna cultivate it anyways. Like, if it even matters at all. If ultimately just, like, plow or cultivate right over it. Alright, and the last wheat field. Great job. Generate field. Do that. Get this out of the way. Start job. Okay, well, I didn't read that right. That's on me. Alright, that's fine. We can clean up that mess. Okay, so you're probably gonna turn here. Or do something. Maybe. I really don't know what you're doing right now. Assuming you're gonna go lengthwise here, right? Okay, there we go. There we go. It's like, just having a moment, that's all. It's fine. Because my assumption is it'd have the header where it'd like do the laps around the outside and all that, but we'll see. The point is at the moment we are getting all of our wheat. We have already started cultivating the next, like the fields for the next seeding and all that stuff, which is good news. So we got that all squared away. We still have enough money left in the bank so that, you know, when I gotta go and get like more fertilizer or whatever we need next, I do have enough that I won't need to dip into my reserves just to handle it, because that's happened a bit lately where I overspend and dealing with it. Yeah, you were just doing a really weird pattern there, friend. Yeah, you're fine. That's fine. Yeah, so the plan of what we got going on here is I do think in the near future we will acquire another section of land with the intent of taking one of these already large fields and just making it that much bigger. So if I were to acquire that land over there with that sorghum, just spreading that sorghum field, just making it that much larger in all directions, is really kind of maximizing its size. Because if we start to do a little bit more of that, I should be able to increase our yields a lot more, put some of the space to use. That might be what I can do, is now that we have this working better with the course play, where I've got like that, not the sorghum, the canola field that's all weird shaped and all that, I can perhaps see that narrow field over there, knocking down these 3 trees that are just in the middle here, and just kind of filling that in there to make that field almost 4 or 5 times its size. I do think this little field we just get rid of, the one to my left. And honestly, this field to my right, I could see potentially getting rid of, or not. Maybe we can see. But you get the idea. Expand some of these fields out. Don't just make them rectangles. Because, with Courseplay, you can actually get the AI to be able to handle a little bit more. And that should also make the farm look a little bit more interesting, is having more different shapes. Okay. Are you gonna clean it up? Yeah, I didn't actually expect them to clean it up. I was just like, oh, I was just gonna miss it. It's gonna be a mess. That's fine. All right, so you left the tiniest little bit. I'm not gonna go back for that. It won't even be a full liter. You can go forward, buddy. You can go forward, buddy. Oh, come on. I know you're blocked by an object. You kept backing up for a week. All right. Where are you going now? Dude, it's a straight line. You've got 2 straight line passes to finish that thing. I'm sorry, I didn't realize you had to do your victory lap first. My bad. I didn't know what the rituals were here. Okay. Yeah, This is a field I think will regenerate because it's a little weird. It's just a little bit cursed in what it's trying to do. Let me guess, this one is going to turn perfectly fine. And I won't be able to do this path without trampling a bunch of plants. We'll just let it do this one. We'll catch it on the other side. Do our last top off from this set. Not sure he does either. I mean, he is getting it done, but it's definitely one of those ones you're like, what are you doing? What is this madness? Alright, so we're almost done with the wheat, and then we got the one field of canola out there. Made a meal of it for sure. Yeah, no, it's just real head scratcher in that one. Oh, did you actually get it all? No, you missed a strip, right? Let's see if it says it done or it turns around and does more. Okay, it's gonna turn around and do one less path. But automation is worth a little bit of stupidity. Oh yeah, that's the whole thing. I kind of made the comment earlier that it was just like, okay, they're way not efficient. Like, compared to the regular AI, they actually do take way longer to do the job. Just because they do all the extra turns and all that to make it work. And I'm like, you know what, though? I'm willing to accept that. That's totally fine by me. Because just to have them do the job and actually get it done, I'm willing to eat a bit extra cost. You'd say it's fair to adjust their wages like 75%? Nah, that's fine. The way I look at it is, for the challenge, I want to keep their wages what they are. It isn't really possible to set it up. You think it may need a better course? Yeah, we can definitely adjust that course. Because that course was a wee bit absolutely cursed. Great job. Do this. Okay, so sharp, one headland, all that. It's fine. Create job, start job. Cool. Meanwhile, I need to grab you. And get to that next field and keep things rolling. I'm gonna put you over here, just in the middle here somewhere, and just let you figure it out. First waypoint, okay. Alright, so meanwhile I need to drop off what we've got here. Alright. Because my assumption is they'll fold it up, they'll get it into position, they'll fold it down, they'll start working. Okay, so we just need to drop off the wheat. And unfortunately, because I accidentally clicked into that other window, that threw over everything. Alright. Alright. Alright, Neldroth, you have a good one. Thank you for hanging out. Cool. So technically we have the absolute tiniest amount of wheat in the back. I'm not going to worry about it. What should happen is if I go over here to the sorghum, once I start picking up the sorghum, it should go well. Yeah, no, it's just unfortunate that, it was fine earlier, but with this really long snaking trailer, now it's a bit more of a pain. Because most of the other ones I had before tipped out the side or, like, just flipped the back. So I just gotta get it moved. It is what it is. All right. Where are you going, man? Yeah, it's making like little circles in the corners, which I'm assuming is just because the odd shape to make it work. I'm just surprised how far it backs up when it's doing these movements. Okay. It's a really weird angle to try and do that. Okay. Yes, again, our canola. So the good news is we're getting that all sorted. There's definitely some negatives with Courseplay so far as figuring out what the heck is going on in that robotic brain of theirs is just not a realistic thing. They are living their own existence in whatever way they choose. Okay. There's a good chance I should be able to put this entire field in this thing, is what I'm guessing. Now the question is if that'll I can't remember if I set it for 2 head passes or just like to do the regular rows. All right. And where are the other vehicles? So you're fine. How are our... Those are fine. Sorry. Yeah, so those are all fine. We're producing the flour and all that. You're doing your thing. You're almost done with that field. That'll be time for the last one. You're still working at putting the weird little scoops on the edge for I don't really honestly know what reason. But hey, whatever. You're still getting the job done, so I can live with it. And what are you doing here? I guess that was just a touch-up in case it missed the end, and now it's going to reposition to the end of the field and do its next pass. It does that bit because you have it set to remain inside the field. If you turn it off setting, it shouldn't do that. Gotcha. I'm okay with it. Like, it is a little bit of an efficiency loss, but I mean, I'm honestly not super worried about it. Because in the long run, what's probably going to end up happening is as we start getting larger fields set up, it shouldn't be as detrimental. Because that's the thing we're going to do is if we look at our map real fast. So where I've got like these fields all set up. So I could certainly take these fields over here, and there's some rocks there, but like expand them out to be different shape. This field could be expanded out in different shape. The roads between there. There's definitely room for these fields to expand, especially like this one back here kind of thing. So I can see buying field 37 and then scooping this over and making this into one giant canola field. Well, actually, there's that building there. I can see like scooping this off to make like a giant canola field. I could also see taking this wheat field up this way as well. Like just make it fill up this whole area, get rid of the wheat field 3. I can see buying these plots and again, the sorghum, like bring it over here the whole way up kind of thing to that area. Honestly, you know, just make the sorghum field, take this whole area, just get rid of wheat field 4. Start making these fields larger. We could buy these down here, this wheat field could come down or whatever. Yeah, honestly, slowly we're actually getting some proper sized fields here. I'm also noticing I really don't need to hover around this thing with the truck. It's got a really high capacity. I'm also debating, I originally wasn't going to destroy any of those rocks. I'm honestly kind of debating destroying these rocks and, you know, just again, making that other field much larger. Doing that kind of thing, just doing what we can to clean it all up. I'm also kind of curious if it's remembering these ones I'm generating. Each time I generate the next field, does it just eliminate the previous field? I also feel that's an area to acquire down there so we can go around those trees and just make a giant field. But basically make some much larger fields that aren't rectangular because we could take advantage of course play being able to actually handle it. And just being able to cut loose with the harvester or whatever. There you go. And we can just zip right on over here. Okay. So that's doing that. Alright, so we are getting up to about 40% in there, so let's go ahead and get the trailer ready. Okay. Oh, I see you're zigzagging now. So let's turn this around because I won't be able to pick up on this pass, and we'll get on the next pass. That'll be fine. It's been good time now it's got started. It definitely feels like you lose a lot of time when you're doing the headways, the headlands or whatever. That like they're good for making sure you don't lose stuff, lining everything up. But because of all the extra turns to it, it just eats up a lot more time to do it. So it kind of punishes you for if you do more than like one headland and you don't need it, that kind of thing. But at the same time, like, you know, it's just a thing. Alright, so they should be turning around here. They could fill up even more. Yes, now that I think about it, we actually have the largest trailer we can get. I think the next trailer we would get is the water one. We still really need a more powerful tractor, though. I definitely skipped on that just to get the trailer this time, just to make sure I got some kind of upgrade, which I don't regret. Because it very well could be that we cash everything out before we see another good tractor. Or it could be literally the next in-game month we see another tractor and I'm salty because, you know, then I can't afford it and we just do without. But that's fine. Eventually we'll get the better tractor. No big deal. There's a pretty good chance that can carry the rest on its own. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this off because I'm pretty sure it's all in this front compartment. And this one's easy to get at because it's just a perfect straight line. I can just drive up and drop. I did notice it only lets me empty one of those compartments at a time, so I can't just pull the pull both the things open and dump it all at one go. I can see that being done for a number of mechanical reasons with the way the game works, but I kinda wish it worked, you know, regardless. Actually, let's put this down here. This feels like a good place to leave this. Because you only need it when I'm harvesting. Gonna get you in position. Okay, so you are about done. You're getting there. Okay, looks like you missed a spot down there. But yeah, that'll definitely be one of the things I'll want to do is... Honestly, I could see taking that 100 horsepower tractor, going buying that really tiny plow again, the one that I was using to, like, mark off the area very effectively. I could see taking the little tiny plow and just cleaning it all up, doing that whole bit. And that'd work well. What are you... All right. Okay, so this one didn't do as good of a job. It was a bit messy. That's okay. All in all, though, we got through all of those fields all right. And that's all good news. Take 2 seconds to hit that real fast. So we're gonna race over here. And get you into position. Which I'm not going to worry about starting it right now. It'll be a thing to deal with. Make sure I did turn off the truck. I did. Okay, so that means the only thing still running is our harvester. So just get the last 2 or 3 passes of the canola to go. Then we can drop all that off for making oil. Why are you driving over the crops? Oh yeah, I did turn off AI destroying crops by driving over them. Because I had once or twice where the AI just straight up did like a donut through the crops. I'm like, I'm sorry, but no, that's not my fault. I'm not getting punished for the AI being the AI. Like, if I drove through the crops, fine, that's on me. But, the AI doing donuts on it's like, look, man, hear me out, no. But I do appreciate everyone hanging out tonight and doing all good stuff. It's been a lot of fun. I know I'm getting a little bit lower energy than I normally am. Not great sleep this past week. It was wonderful hanging out with my niece and nephew. But it's just one of those things. Waking up early, then going to sleep, waking up early, then going to sleep late, like that. That has definitely taken its toll. Where my sleep schedule was never well. It was definitely looking hit and miss and all that. We can declare it dead. It is no longer among us, so, you know, rip sleep schedule. So I'm going to be trying to fix that over the next couple of days, probably week, honestly. But, there's a good chance when we stream tomorrow, it'll probably be RimWorld to start. We didn't do RimWorld today. I probably will pick up where we left off in our Toxic Colony. I don't know what else we'll do tomorrow, but we'll figure it out. And then the next day, if I'm not mistaken, we should have City Skylines 2 economic update, where we can all rejoice in the firing of the landlords. And see if they've truly fixed the economy. and see where it goes from there. Because that should be interesting. Yeah, sleep schedule. The sleep schedule was never well, but it has finally fallen. That whole bit. Man, I can potentially see when it comes to time to plant these. I can see taking the time before we actually plant these fields to get the little plow, because I think we got rid of the little plow. But to get the little plow and broaden the fields using not rectangular shapes, one, to make it more interesting, and then two, you know, get more yield. I'm curious, because I don't see the little plow. Actually, here's where we can check. I think we may have sold the little plow at some point. It feels like a thing I would look at, have decided the price wasn't enough, and then not done it. But I'm also not seeing it. Plows? No, I got rid of it. That's fine. Replacing that plow won't be much. Now, with that said, what's going to end up happening here is I'm not going to start that last cultivator and all that kind of stuff. It is getting to the point where I am a bit over my normal time in regards to doing that. Let's see, oh, you can unload the crops in the ground too? Yes, you can. You can just dump it on the ground. So what's going to end up happening is for all of the people hanging out here on Twitch, we're going to go raid someone, so don't worry about that. We'll find someone doing good content and all that good stuff. I am going to make sure before I go any farther to hit that save button there and exit out the title screen. But for everyone over here on Twitch, we're going to go raid someone. So hang out for that. If you are on TikTok and YouTube, that's not what's going to happen because there's no such thing as rating on those platforms as far as I'm aware. So instead what's going to happen is the stream is going to abruptly end for you and all that. But thank you so much for everyone who tuned in tonight. I hope you didn't tune out. If you tuned out, that's honestly fair. But what's going to end up happening is we're going to go to the ending stream screen. So goodbye, TikTok. I will see you all tomorrow at 7 p.m. EST or after.